I'm here with Gino.
Hey, Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player. Feeling like Pac. Represent. On my block. Try to knock me down, but I come up on top. Yeah, they wanna see me flop. Got a plot, want a lot. I won't stop on my pops. Got so many flows, it's insane. They don't really understand the game. Got a plan and it's plain, I ain't playing. I'm just trying to gain. I wanna get that big bag, need that big racks. Blow up Tic Tac with a blue cheese at. I don't give a fuck about your feedback. Eat that, get back, sit back, watch me spit that kickback. Got so many flows, yeah, they think that I'm insane. Ghetto kids in a lot of pain, all about the bills, ain't shit changed. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game, I'm a player. If you a hater, I don't hate you. I'm just really happy that I ain't you. I just wanna thank you. You kept me motivated, so now I motivate you. There's a lot of cake, money on my mind like a banker. Coming through with them bangers, ain't no room for mistakes. Lot of stake, hustle till we get a lot of rooms, lot of stakes. Good kid, but I keep it gangsta. All gas, no brakes. Got cash for the case. More cash in the case. More cash in the safe. More cash on the way. Hustling all day. Ay. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player.
Danger, coming with the bang. Where my fucking paper.
Said I'm taking big shots, just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. They been trying to get me cheap like a thrift shop, but I told them it's my time, shit the wristwatch. They been talking way before they even doing something. Whoa. If they wanna play, let's get the tip off. Ain't no silver lining, dawg, this some rose gold. Getting new money, I'm a old soul. Yeah, I get it bouncing like a pogo. Whoa. And I'm too cold like Frozone. And my chick elastic, girl. Told them we ain't in the fake and this ain't plastic, girl. Bought a new whip and cash, now my tax is thorough. Way I'm shooting like step, but my pass is bro. The way I'm playing the field, I'm in a league of my own. And now they all in they fields, I got them all on my phone. But dog, I'm hitting the climb, I got no time on the low. Way I'm shooting is messy, the way I'm hitting the goals. I'm taking big shots, just stop. Way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. I just left, but you know I'm coming back though. Whoa. And you know I don't play by my rags though. Now go and turn it up to the max, whoa. Send a paper to me now like a fax, whoa. Yeah. Got 2 phones ringing off the hook now. When I'm in the city, I get looks now. I was going bad, but I'm good now. Said I had to go and put my foot down. Told them I'ma get it and go. Nah. Even in the summer, man, they knowing I'm cold. I got a couple checks coming that I made off the flows. Might get a couple more popping if I do it some more. I gotta do it for real. Said I'm back in my bag. All my digits are climbing just like they all on the dash. And they tell me slow down, cause dog, I'm moving too fast. Might go and cop me a Tesla, cause dog, I still got a gas. Said I'm taking big shots. Just stop, where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah, you about to see me on demand like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, man, we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream. Sorry for the delay there. I was trying to drop some stuff in the Discord. But what is going on, Mafia? Welcome back. Bitcoin kind of just chomping around in this local kind of mini range that we're forming up here between about $68,000 and call it about $71,000. What is coming next for the price action on Bitcoin, guys? Are we going to continue up? Are we going to be able to squeeze the shorts to the upside? Or are we going to get a rotation back down towards our major value area low, sitting closer to $59,000? I'm going to cover everything with you guys here on tonight's live stream, or today's live stream. And we'll cover the live price action here and see if... we'll see what happens. We'll see if we can call some moves here for you guys. But what is going on, Mafia? Welcome in. Welcome in. We got Henry in the chat said going down to 55K. Well, I'll be honest with you guys. I do prefer a drop down to those range lows to take out 59K into our major horizontal levels of support. I just don't know if we're going to get that set up, but I would actually prefer that. Shout out to Lindo. I don't know if I can see that. Said the GOAT is here. Welcome in, brother. I appreciate you. Let's see. Professor Frankie. Shout out to Shirkon in the chat. What is going on? We got Darren Does Things holding it down. I think we got Tony D in here as well. I'm sure Jesse will pop in at some point. Show the mod some love in the chat. We got Neon Visual said smash that like button. Don't forget, guys, smash that like button. It helps the channel out endlessly, and it's super, super simple. Just go ahead and click that. It's free 99 to support the channel here. Let's see. Shout out to World said, how can people think BTC to 50K while the fear and greed index is still below 10? Yeah, well, you know, that's kind of why I don't know if we're going to make it down there. I would prefer a move to come down and take that low. And guys, let's not forget, we are technically in a bear market. Still massive weakness on the charts as we talked about yesterday. So until we see some major signs of strength to the upside, that's going to kind of be the lens that we have to look through. But But at the same time, of course, we've already gotten a massive drop to the downside. This is not the place to start thinking that we're, okay, finally entering a bear market. I think we have been in a bear market for quite some time. I've talked about how I think a lot of the pain is kind of behind us. It does not mean, technically from a technical perspective, the higher probability would be to eventually see another move to the downside. But as we have tapped into this major level of support, right, you don't want to get bearish too late. All our shorts were from much higher. I've taken profits on those shorts. I'm still holding a portion of them. We'll talk a little bit about those today. But of course, those are from higher, right? This is not the place where I would be looking for fresh, like major swing short positions. At least as of right now, we have a lot of shorts in the market. They could very easily get squeezed to the upside. So we'll kind of cover that with you guys as well. We'll take a look at the liquidity heat map, all that good stuff. Shout out to Gal said, you said free 99. Let's go. If we're going to have another drop, let's do it. Bulls just slamming resistance with no progress. Yeah, and I'll try to break that down and give you guys the probabilities. But just overall, mic is fine. I don't hear any clipping. Yeah, let me know if the mic is tripping out here, guys. Microphone too loud. Oh, God. Let me know, guys. We'll just take a vote here. Green checks in the chat if the audio is good. And I don't know, put bears in the chat if they are bad. Yeah, Matt, wow, mic is clipping here. Let me go ahead and... chop it down one more level here. This is lower than we usually are. Is that better? Are we still clipping? Let me know. Okay, microphone is too loud. That should be better. I just lowered it. We should stop clipping. Let me know if that's good. Drop some green check marks in the chat if you guys can hear me loud and clear, but not too loud. Good. Okay. Perfect. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. It's so funny. Every time there's a problem with the mic, it's like half the chat has no problem, half the chat does have a problem, which is super, super confusing. But anyway, here we go. My levels say we are not clipping right now, so that should be the output. So, yeah, if I'm not clipping over here, there should be no clipping on the mic check 1, 2. Okay, green checks. There we go. Mic is perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here, guys. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and just go over the long term, but of course, it just kind of makes sense to kind of, just talk about where we are, right? Of course, major drops to the downside, down currently, wick to wick here, about 52%. We have come into our major level of support sitting here at our, where's it at? Bada boom, lower volume profile, major support here, of course, looking to get back inside this profile, rotate all the way to the value area low. This is where we are getting this very nice bounce from. Can't hate that, right? Beautiful rotation of that volume profile. I always tell you guys, if you take anything away from this stream, learn the volume profiles. They will absolutely change your life, not only helping you catch nice short positions, right, from the highs for the big drop down, but also, of course, I am not in this long position personally. There was not really too much of a chance to enter this, honestly. Literally got off the live stream here, and we were saying, suspicious that we haven't hit that value area low, but I was not on the chart here. We wicked down, but nonetheless, right, we tapped that value area low, and that's where we get the bounce from. It also helped us stay out of the knife catch longs here, because, of course, once you get in here, the highest probability is to go to the POC. Once you lose the POC, highest probability is to come on down to that value area low. So, literally escaped every single knife catch long there. Didn't have to even try to take them as we anticipated that value area low. And in the craziest poetic fashion, there is the tap to the dollar. And now we are finally starting to see a little bit of structure form here, guys, a little bit of a range. Kind of hard to, give any significant analysis on these straight down and straight up candles. But finally, we have created a little bit of a small range up here. And yesterday, we were talking about the idea that we do have some liquidity sitting above, right? Everybody getting super bearish at the lows, shorting the bottom. And we kind of talk about how I try to identify where the short squeezes might begin. And very simply, we kind of just talk about where people would generally set their stop losses, right? If you're shorting here at the bottom, at least based off the 80-minute time frame or any kind of significant time frame here, like the 1 hour, really the significant high, in my opinion, would be right up here. And you can see we come up, we hit our head, we hit our head, we hit our head, we hit our head. So if we are able to sneak above this high, right? Because if I were to take a short here, just from short the bottom, which obviously, excuse me, is never the case. But if I were to short here, right, my stop loss would either have to go above one of these tiny little highs or, essentially this swing high up here, which, might not seem like a bad idea if you're expecting Bitcoin to go to zero. Then your risk to reward gets a little bit better. That's probably the thought process there for a lot of people shorting the bottom. Oh my God, this is the start of the bear market. It's about to go down in a straight line. Let me short, stop above the highs. But what does that tell us, right? That tells us that there is probably a lot of liquidity sitting up here. And we now do have this nice clean wick sitting here at the high highs at about $72,237, right? Pretty close to that high here. We even kind of stopped out some of those shorts right here. But when we take a look at the liquidation heat map, we can actually see that there is a bit of liquidity up here. So if we are, right, this is kind of what we talked about last night, if we are able to get up here and squeeze above these highs, we might have an opportunity to squeeze out some of those shorts, stop them out, and we do have some local resistance here. I will be interested in scalp short positions if we do get the setup in the premium, but I would not really be viewing that as a massive dump to new lows necessarily. Kind of a difficult situation because when we have liquidity sitting up here, a lot of the times we will look for like liquidity sweeps, right, for corrections back down. But in this case, there is a little bit of a danger here because there are so many shorts that, you know, when you have liquidity, there's kind of two things that can happen. You either stop out the shorts, right, get the SFP, and then continue down, or you could come up here and then start squeezing out the shorts. And if there's enough shorts up there, right, we could squeeze above here, start stopping out the people above here, start stopping out the people above here, and that's kind of where you could start a bigger short squeeze. And I'm going to talk about some of the major key levels that I'm looking at, as well as the local levels as well. But I would say, right, like a lot of shorts in the market, if we can get out of here and start squeezing, things could get moving very, very quickly. Now, that wouldn't necessarily make me think, oh my God, beautiful bullish move, all-time highs, right? That would just be looked at through the lens of a simple short squeeze. Let's see. Would you buy it if it went to zero? Shout out to Mike Bennett. I mean, I guess free Bitcoin, kind of a risk-free trade there. So yeah, I probably would buy it if it went to zero. Obviously, my spot bags, or at least a small portion of the spot bags that I still hold right now, would be absolutely crushed, but kind of like a risk-free hedge there, right? Just like buy a bunch at zero, maybe buy up the entire supply. But let's see. XRP going to zero. Shout out to Vision. When XRP goes to zero, if XRP goes to zero, Vision, we will throw a party. We'll put your profile picture on the thumbnail, baby. Shout out to Vision. There really wasn't much confirmations at the lows. Yeah, shout out to New Earth Guardian. Yeah, down here, I mean, if you go down to a low enough time frame, like you did get some kind of like bullish divergences, right? You get the low, front run the value area low. At this point, you're kind of thinking, well, hey, chances of coming back down here are pretty high probability. Is we see this time and time again, guys. Like even up here at our upper range, if you remember back here when we were ranging around forever, right? Same exact thing kind of happened, right? We were live streaming here on I guess it was Wednesday, right? We were kind of front ran this value area low. We came up. We went through the entire weekend, just kind of sideways price action. And sure enough, you know, boop, on Sunday, we come down and tap that low, right? It's just that magnetic kind of nature of the volume profiles. You break back in, can't get out. You know, at that point, right, you're accepted into the range. POC is next. The highest probability kind of move there is to get that full fill of that volume profile. And yes, you can get bounces in between, right? You can get a bounce here, whatever. It's not always a clean, just drop straight to the value area low. But more often than not, that value area low does act as just like a super magnet dragging you towards those lows. And you do see that happen more often than not. So it is like a repeatable kind of thing there. So same exact thing. You just kind of had some like low time frame bull divs down here at the low. But of course, I wasn't even on the chart to see that. But of course, right, you get your low, your lower low, your low, your higher low, tap on that key level. And then what happens, right? Next likely place for price to go is that PLC. Flip that PLC right into the value area high, right? Deviate above the high, back to the POC, and now we're kind of just ranging around here between pretty much the POC and the value area high. So locally, right, that's kind of my overall thought process. Take out about $72,000, kind of the first place where I would be interested in looking for a scalp short, only if I get the confirmations, because, again, this is a little bit of a sticky situation because either you're going to get the confirmation, you're going to get the pullback, or and again, I would be viewing that as a scalp position. But, again, you are kind of at risk there of potentially just starting to see the short squeeze play out. Now, if we do see those short squeeze, let's say we do not get the SFP, we don't get the drop to the downside, kind of major level that I would be looking at that right after that is if we pull up our daily MPOCs. You guys can see here, we do have a daily MPOC starting at about $73,450, and then you have a golden pocket up here to about $75,000. So if we did see that kind of first pop of the shorts, right, this would kind of be the zone I would be looking at for the next area of resistance. Let's go ahead and make that purple for resistance, right? Whoops. Come on. There we go. So come up here. Maybe we squeeze the shorts into our key level of resistance. The hope there for the short would be obviously get a reaction here, potential SFP, correction back down, right? Now, of course, I would view that as a scalp. because you never know, right? If you break out of this range, you could just retest the value area high and then, get the bigger breakout, right? And when we look at some of our money flow here, actually take that off the chart, take a look at like something like our 3 hour, right? 3 hour money flow has been bing bonging around here. Yeah, it's trending to the upside, right? It's come up very nicely. Now it's back down. But, if this continues to trend to the upside, right, we start seeing that short squeeze. Money flow starts crossing over into the green, right, at this 3 hour money flow. 4 hour money flow starts curving up towards that zero line. I would view that as a potential back test of the value area high for a continuation of the trend, because if that money flow crosses green, that is going to indicate the overall continuation of the trend, which would make us look for highs, higher lows, higher highs. Doesn't mean you can't catch a nice little scalp there on the drop down, but that is pretty much what I'll be looking at, right? Now, if we break above, I would call it about $76,000. Bottom of the golden pocket comes in at about 75. Break above the golden pocket. Where's the next likely place for price to go? We talked about this last night, right? So maybe we squeeze out the shorts here. This would be your first opportunity for a rejection. If we get above that golden pocket, I would be anticipating to come into our next area of clear confluence here. Daily MPOC. We have the key $80,500 swing low support resistance flip and the 786. Break the golden pocket. Next place for price to likely go is going to be the 786 retracement. And then, of course, you do have the confluence there. And as you guys know, right, those areas of confluence are the places that you want to mark off on the chart as your areas of interest for reactions, right? Not ever setting just limit orders there to take a short or limit orders here to take a short. But this is kind of where, you have the alert go off. You want to kind of gauge that reaction, see if you get the confirmations to take the trade. If not, you would sit on your hands and just wait for that next area of interest. If you get the confirmation there, you could take the trade. If not, right, you would sit on your hands and expect higher. But those would be the two major levels I'd be looking at to the upside, because both of these levels, right, you have the daily MPOC golden pocket. You have a little bit more confluence here between about, call it 79, call it like $80,000 to $81,000. Another kind of big thing here is up at the $80,000 level, you have the swing low at 80,500, and then right within here on our first zone, you have the April lows, right? So you have like two key support resistance flips in both of these zones here. I'll actually just label this April lows, right? So, again, it's like if we flip that level to support, right, at that point, next resistance level, once we flip 80,500, at that point, right, I'm looking up towards about $84,000 to $86,000. And then at that point, right, we're going to start looking at this as well. Hey, can we get accepted back into the range? Can we potentially rotate this range? It's a little too far away to kind of even talk about that. But just to kind of give you guys like a forward-thinking view of what I'll be looking at, just simple auction market theory. $86,000 is about our value area low of this current range. And then even yesterday, I zoomed out and kind of pulled that kind of same range, right, but just over all this price action from the from pretty much the start of the range to the end. That $86,000 level is going to be huge, because not only would you be getting accepted into this local value area, but you could also be getting accepted into this much bigger value area. So again, this is like pretty far away. I just like to have these levels on the chart, because when we look at the market from an auction market theory kind of perspective, the idea is that price just seeks out fair value, right? So if I just hide some of this stuff to clean up the chart, we'll take off the daily MPOCs, take off the support resistance flips, take off the upper range here, right? Like value down here, value up here. Once you impulse out of this range, price is very likely to come into the lower value, right? It's going to kind of fall through that low volume gap that we looked at, and then just seek out fair value. Where's the fair value? It's right in here, right? Very clear, obvious kind of fair value sitting there. And, we looked at MicroStrategy already starting to do this before Bitcoin even headed down here, which was another reason why we anticipated this big capitulation down. We had the low volume gap, which was facilitating a situation where we would very likely see a fast drop down, right? There was no horizontal support, massive volume gap, perfect environment to get a fast drop down. And then just looking at it from a profile perspective, it's like impulse out of here, price is going to play around in here. And not only do you just come play around in here, but like literally to the dollar, right? You get accepted into the range, POC, lose the POC down to the value area low, giving you a beautiful roadmap to what price is very likely to do next. So very nice to see that. And just looking at that from the same perspective, it's like, well, hey, if we were to just impulse out of this range, right? Look at that. We have the low volume gap back above us, right? We covered the hyper local levels here. Again, $76,000 is that little high volume node. But at the end of the day, this is a pretty low volume gap. If we start squeezing the shorts, it is just like it was in an environment to get a fast drop down, right? We could also be in a fast environment. If you get a short squeeze, you would expect a fast push to the upside, and you would also be not really fighting much to the upside, right? You kind of just have that massive low volume gap, which is why I say if we start stopping out the shorts, it could get aggressive very quickly. And the next major like high time frame node is sitting at about $86,000, right, at that value area low. Then we can start talking about, well, hey, are we really going to break back in there, or are we still going to be looking for rejections? Of course, guys, we are still, it's kind of hard to say, oh my God, the bottom is definitely in here at 59K, but you can see, right, pull your fib from your swing high to your swing low. Golden pocket 786, it's right on that value area low. This is, I said this yesterday, the biggest level of resistance on the chart, because at the end of the day, right, if we get that big push up, could be a lower high, right? And then another quick drop through the low volume gap for a potential lower low. I would still say, although, right, we are in massive, massive support, very clean level. At the same time, right, we are still technically in a bear market, right, from a 4-year cycle perspective or even just a market structure perspective, right? The bears are obviously in control here with this massive downtrend, and we don't want to fight the trend too much, right? Weekly money flow crossover in the red is still pretty fresh here. And to be honest, like my preference, right, not from a probability perspective, but my preference would be to kind of come down and take out this low one more time. If we do, right, if we cannot get out of this volume profile here, guys, and we rotate back down to the lows, the next major level of support from a horizontal perspective is honestly sitting right below this value area, right? When we trade the value areas, typically we are looking for shorts at the highs, longs at the lows from this context. And if we did get a rotation back down to these lows, right, well, we have the value area low. We have the, wick low down here at about 59.8. But underneath that, right, if we pull up our horizontal levels, right, we have a monthly MPOC. We have a weekly MPOC. And I believe we have a weekly level down there as well. So you do have some backup support down there. So, at that point, I would just be treating this as a typical volume profile. Rotate, can't get out. POC, lose the POC, down to the value area low. If we can get a deviation there, we have some nice support levels down here between about, $55,000 and $57,000. We could look at that as a deviation below the low, maybe get a push back inside the range, and I would just be treating that as a typical volume profile. This is kind of what I prefer, right? Like more often than not, guys, I like to take longs at the lows, shorts at the highs for the volume profile. So that, it's nice that we have that backup support, and also this weekly $55,000 level is going to be absolutely key. Because not only is it a weekly level, but also if we pull up our 2021 volume profile here, it is also perfectly confluent with the value area high of this previous range, right? So it could also just be a back test of that value area high. Once we lose 55K, guys, this is where I start to get a little bit concerned. It's not the line in the sand, but if we did come down here and bounce and not get the bounce off 55K, maybe we start losing these levels, we get accepted into this profile. Well, very simply put, guys, the beauty of the volume profile is it gives you a clear plan. Can't get out of this value area. The next likely place for price to go is $47,000 at the POC of this range. Now, this is, in my opinion, the line in the sand. Once we lose 47K, I will be anticipating a potential drop down towards, I would call it between about $37,000 and $30,800. Not my base case just yet, guys. Not my base case just yet. Like I said, I always have to remember that we have new people in here that might not be used to looking at the chart, especially from like a trading perspective. We're at massive support here, right? We've been bearish pretty much since $108,000. Once we got this big drop down, obviously the anticipation is the continuation down. It's the reason why we held those shorts. But at this point, right, like this is, we've already gotten a big drop down, right? Bounces can come in, even in a bear market, right? Big drop, big bounce. Drop, even this was, from the wick low to the high was a 27% bounce. Even this low to this low was like a 45% bounce. Like even here to here, right? 20% bounce. So you can get these bounces coming in. And where are those bounces likely to come in at? Well, they're going to come in very likely at support. So you have a lot of support down here. But once you lose 47K, there's not much underneath us until we start getting down towards the mid to low 30s. So very, I'm going to change this to like gold because this is a very, very important level in my opinion. And it's the same theory that we use for any volume profile, right? We get accepted into this range, lose the high, POC is next. Lose the POC, value area low is next. Very high probability. I can't say it's 100%. It doesn't have a 100% hit rate, but it's a very high hit rate, right? It's much less often that you just kind of front run the low and then send it all the way back up. So it's going to be the same thing once we get in here. Like, and to be honest, right? Like even if I were looking for longs, I'm much more comfortable taking a long off of the POC, right? If you come out and then retest the POC, I'd rather see a breakout like that than if we were to come down to some random level like underneath the point of control, right? Because like once you lose the POC, like the full rotation of the profile becomes very, very high probability. It is common, right? I wouldn't say common, but it is more common than just front running the value area low that you can like push into a profile and then just retest the POC and get the breakout. Once you lose that POC, it becomes even higher probability that you'll see that low. So it's going to be the same thing down here. I would be okay, right? I would honestly be okay with, and I honestly, like, from a health perspective, right, I would kind of prefer not to lose the previous all-time high by, 56%, right? Typically, like in the previous cycle, we obviously came back down to retest the previous all-time high at 20K, but we just barely slip it, right? Like, I would not really want to see this all-time high lost by that much. And we've already slipped below that all-time high just a little bit, right? You still have the 200-week moving average underneath you, which is very important. We have lost that in the past. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of how I handle this stuff, right? If we wake up tomorrow and we're down here, just so you guys kind of have my full thought process, right? Like, oh my God, are we going to zero? Well, we still have support here. Once we lose that, POC. Once we lose that, yikes. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Let me jump into the chat here. Shout out to, man, these names are so difficult sometimes. Shout out to Saba. I'm going to call you Saba. Says, thanks. I'm new, so I was wondering what good leverage to use on Bitcoin. Shout out to Saba. I would say that's, I would learn about leverage a little bit before you start asking that question. Tony D, if you could drop the leverage trading tutorial from the beginner series in the chat for him, that would be super awesome. Go watch that video. I think it's titled like the only leverage trading tutorial you ever need to see. That'll kind of give you an idea of like how leverage affects your position, right? And why it's not necessarily the higher the leverage, the higher the risk. The higher the leverage, yes, the closer your liquidation level will be. But of course, if you're asking that question, I would actually recommend you go watch that video, learn about leverage, so you know how to use it the correct way. Let's see. Shout out to Pyro, says, instant like. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you. He says, I guess we're coming back to accumulation phase. Yeah, I listen, I would say this, guys. Again, like, I don't want to get, like, carried away here. I try to be very careful the way I say stuff, right? Because I don't want people to think, like, I'm sending subliminal messages that, like, I think the bottom's in or anything like that. Well, obviously, we're in a bear market, right? So, like, we have to look through the lens of that. But, again, when we compare it to 2021, right, I just don't want people getting bearish at the wrong time, right? $108,000, it was very clear that we had to start questioning if 126K was the top. Once we lost the 50-week moving average, we expected the big drop down here to our value area low. At that point, with our weekly money flow crossover into the red, this made us say this is a big risk for a very large continuation to the downside and a continuation deeper into a bear market. I think a lot of people did not understand that on this higher low. A lot of people were very hopeful. They didn't understand why we were talking about another capitulation down. They didn't understand, like, why could you be possibly talking, like, why are you worried, bro? This is a higher low. Well, through my almost decade of looking at the charts, right, and understanding how the markets move from a very deep level, not all higher lows are created equal, right? Price is, of course, I get it, right? Trend is your friend. Totally makes sense, right? That's not wrong. But the trend is your friend, right? Until the end, right? Eventually, you're going to be, oh my God, higher low, still a higher low. But wait, now it's changing. And then your trend changes, right? So not every higher low is created equal. So when we see this higher low forming, right, but our money flow is coming out, this money flow is an early indication that the continuation down is more likely and the trend is about to change. So the warning signs for the bear market were all the way up here. I think a lot of the general public, right, or like the more, I don't know, like the maybe people who don't fully understand how the charts work might have not seen that, right? And now they're seeing this big drop down thinking, like, now we're just starting to enter a bear market. And again, I don't really have, from the chat, right, from my analytics or, like, kind of my engagement, it's kind of hard to read the sentiment, right? Because I think a lot of people that watch this show understand the charts more, right? And they're kind of like, yeah, I understand why this will probably go down. But, like, if you go on, like, Twitter or something like that, I don't really know what the full sentiment is there, but if people are starting to get super bearish here, you just, like, bring it back to 2021, right? Like, you get the first drop down, the bearish consolidation, the second drop down, whether you want to measure that second drop down to here or here, this was not the place to start getting bearish, right? Now, of course, like I said, I would say like the highest probability here from like a bear market perspective or a trend perspective would just still be to be looking for potential new lows to come. But that would not be like the start of the bear market, in my opinion. I think we've been in a bear market for quite some time, so it's more like you have to shift that psychology from, oh my God, this could start getting really ugly, to, all right, this could continue to make lower lows, but you kind of want to start to slowly shift into like, all right, like maybe we can start looking for a bottom to form, right? Like back here, you know, you get the first low. Money flow is early in the red. You end up getting one more big capitulation down. But at this point, right, this is where a lot of people say, oh my God, Terra Luna collapse, I think happened right here. Everything's dying. This is, you know, we're going down to 8K. You don't want to be one of those late bears, because at that point, like even if you bought right here at $18,000, right, $18,700, you know, even if you just put your whole bag in here, you would have to endure a little bit of drawdown. But at the end of the day, in hindsight, right, you pretty much bought the bottom. So you kind of want to have that like psychological view when people start saying the bear market is just starting, or like the, you know, crypto's dead, it's never coming back, especially when it's accompanied by a massive bearish narrative. It's just not the time to start getting bearish, right? The time to start getting bearish was up here at the bearish divergences, and then the bearish retest, the blood diamond, all the stuff we saw back last cycle that clearly indicated that 100K was the way lower probability, just like all-time highs from here was the way lower probability. So you just want to just be careful, right? Again, it's like, it's kind of hard because I have to like, everybody just wants to say, like, is the bottom in? Are we going straight up? But that's just, no one knows that, right? I would say I'm still anticipating potential new lows, whether we get the short squeeze up or not. We could still get some new lows, but like this is kind of where you're on bottom watch, right? We're calling it bottom watch 2026. So you can kind of be bearish while starting to look at the market through, like even here, right? Like we're still bearish, right? We're still not surprised that we're going to see lower lows, but you're kind of starting to look for those bottom signals, which in this case, in 2022, it could not have been more perfect. Like just beautiful weekly bearish divergence. Weekly money flow has spent a decent time in the red. We start curving back up. That typically indicates the bottom's in, and then you wind up accumulation, and then you send it back to the upside. And of course, dollar cost averaging is kind of the strategy that I would personally recommend, not financial advice, but it's usually the better strategy, right? Rather than trying to wait for the, you know, it's going to hit 12K, that's when I'm going to dump my bag in. And then you're stuck like, oh my God, it's going to go back down. It's going to go back down. It's going to go back to, oh, all right, I'll just buy on the way up. That's not what you want to do, right? This is the time. Like, even if we get another drop like this, right? Like, this is the time to pay attention. This is not the time to think that, like, oh, walk away from crypto for 2 years. So it's like, am I bearish or bullish, right? Well, technically, we're in a bear market. I know I have to say I'm probably bearish for lower lows, but starting to shift that mindset to like, oh my God, guys, start watching for the big drops down. To hey, maybe we get another big drop down, but like, don't this is the time to pay attention. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. Shout out to Eric, said, how do you know the bear market didn't start from the first drop to 107K? I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Maybe you're talking about, like, how do we know the bear market didn't start here? I think it's a very plausible thought. Very similar to 2021. If you guys watch the show, you will know that I am a believer that this was the true top, right? This is where we had the euphoria peak, right? And then this numerical all-time high that we made, technically a higher high, but really the top of the market was here. This is where all the euphoria was. This is where all the social interest was. And then as price makes a higher high, people are less interested, giving you a literal divergence between the social analytics and the price action. And you get the technical bearish divergences. So like at that point, you could say like maybe this was the top. Very similar situation here in 2024 when we made the top here, right? It's like all this, and of course we did not get the same euphoria that we got in 2021 back in this cycle. We did not get the same euphoria in this cycle that we did back here. There was no money printing. There was less liquidity. But from like a psychology standpoint, right? Like what was going on up here, right? Like Trump launches a meme coin. Meme coins are going crazy. This is the only time I ever got personal messages from my friends and family. Oh my God, should I buy Bitcoin? What is that usually a sign of? That is usually the sign of a top forming, right? So what happens? You wind up, the top is not in necessarily, right? But you start to form that top, which was the same thing back here, right? Massive weekly bearish divergences. We even compared this to MicroStrategy. I've done this a bunch of times, even before the big drop. Where we at, right? Let me just pull this up side by side to MicroStrategy, right? It was like almost the same exact thing where MicroStrategy acted a little bit more typical of what you would see with a lower high, right? Here is 2021, right? I'll pull this up. You can see my cursor on both screens here. You get the top, right? Then you come down lower high, then the bear market begins, right? Bitcoin winds up getting the top, higher high to put in that bearish divergence, continuation down, right? It was the same thing here in 2021, right? Same value areas. We're looking at it from a value area perspective, right? No volume. We lose this range. Very likely we come down here. But what happened, right? We got the high, the low, the lower high, right? Giving you that nice clean downtrend. But what did Bitcoin do? High, low, higher high, forming those bearish divergences. This was like literally picture perfect to exactly what we saw in 2021, and wound up playing the exact same way. That's why when we were hanging out over here, it's like, well, hey, it would make a lot of sense for Bitcoin to fall through that same low volume gap and start playing around with that exact same lower value area, right? With MicroStrategy slightly front running it. So like massive signs. And I would say that's if that's what you're talking about, I think that's a very plausible kind of thought process from a psychological perspective. There were a lot of top signals there in 2024. And we've seen that happen in 2021. So I think it's a plausible thought. Let's see. Patience is key here. We have a long way before the real crypto winter. Shout out to Cigar Tachi. I would not really see a worse scenario, right? Like I've kind of marked out these two major scenarios. Best case scenario, we start forming a bottom up at these higher levels, right? And then the worst case scenario would be to see the traditional 70+% bear market come in, which would look a lot more and right, like line in the sand, lose 47K. 30K, right? That would give you the same traditional 4-year cycle play out, which would be insane if we see that play out one more time. But that would be kind of the worst case scenario, right? So if you want just kind of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, obviously, worst thing could happen is Bitcoin goes to zero. Obviously, I don't anticipate that, but of course, right, like in my opinion, right, I would not be anticipating like this would be a huge opportunity for me, right, for Bitcoin. But we just have to say if we see those bottom signals, which are not necessarily popping up on the chart right now very strongly, but if we start to see those bottom signals form a little earlier, right, just like in 2021, I had some targets here between 12 and 14K, right, which we did not hit. But once I started seeing these bottom signals with the weekly bullish divergence, right, I take that into account. Right? I don't just say, I don't care about this. I don't care about the chart. I'm just waiting for my level. Never, right? It's a target. If we lost these lows, that would be the next place I would look. But we had levels here, and once we start seeing those bullish divergences, we start seeing the money flow start to roll back up. We start to say to ourselves, well, hey, we're probably not going to 12K anymore. It's going to be very similar here. If we start to see those bottom signals form here, right? It's like, well, hey, guys, we might be able to dodge that 30K drop. But if not, if we lose it, right, well, then you're probably just going to see that 30K drop. Shout out to OCB. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. Said, Frankie, could you please analyze the potential long on Caspa at the 4 cent area where it's optimal to take profit? Currently looking at 0.037 to 0.041 TP. What do you think? Shout out to OCB. I won't give you the setup. We do that more in the premium Discord, but I will take a look at Caspa for you. We'll take a look at some of the altcoins as well, and I'll take a look at that and let you know what I think. And hopefully you can use that to your advantage. Of course, never financial advice. Yo, we got Golden in the chat. What is going on? He said, sarcasm. It's going below zero. Dump it all. Your house, goats, swans, dogs, cats, kids, goldfish, and your wifey. Sell the farm and move to the Caribbean, lol. Shout out to Golden. Welcome in, bro. I was thinking about you today. I was like, dang, we haven't seen Golden in a while. Hope you're doing well, bro. And yeah, if Bitcoin goes to zero, I'm selling my kidney. Shout out to Golden. Welcome in, bro. And he's on his Golden alt account. They're trying to shut down Golden. Show Golden some love. If you got a membership, drop that Golden emoji in the chat. Let's go. Neon Vision will start in the Golden Waterfall, not the Golden Showers, guys. No Golden Showers on this channel. Only waterfalls. Yo, Golden, you forgot to say not financial advice at the end. Why do you randomly scream? So annoying. Sorry, Jacob. Oh, my God. I'll just start whispering for Jacob. It's Jacob's show, guys. It's Jacob's live stream. Anyway. All right, let's see. If we don't get a beautiful 30K entry, are you staying sidelined? I'll be honest. I wouldn't. If we start like decisively losing it again, it's going to be a volume profile. It's going to be a volume profile kind of thought process. Like, it's impossible for me to tell if and when we get down here, right, it's impossible for me to tell what the charts are going to look like, right? It was the same thing. If you guys have been watching for a while, right, when we talked about, what's the worst case, what would be the bad case, right? If we lose the 50-week moving average at $108,000, right, or if we lose the value area high, that was 108K, 50-week moving average just underneath. Bearish divergences, money flow coming out. Obviously, the anticipation was a continuation down. And then, when we try to forecast in the future what the sentiment would be once we start getting some support, it's like, well, hey, if we lose this level, right, and we get a massive dump to the downside, I have to anticipate money flow coming out, right? And then at that point, right, if money flow is continuing to trend out, especially on the weekly, the anticipation is going to be lower highs and lower lows to come, right, which obviously ended up being the case. In this case, and then eventually that ended up being what happened, right? But it's hard for me to say that that was definitely what was going to be the case. It was just kind of me thinking that was the highest probability just because this is probably going to trend down. There were a lot of things that made it very likely that 126K was the place to look for the top to come in, or not watch 126K and say the top was going to come in there. But once you start like losing those key levels of support, it's like, hey, maybe 126K was the top, guys. Like, got to send those warning shots. But this is so far away. It's hard for me to forecast what this is going to look like. So, if we wind up hanging out around here for a long time, right? Maybe we bing bong around, right? Maybe we slip. If it does something like that, right? Well, maybe the money flow has some time to spend in the red here, and then, on that push into our next macro level of support between 55 and 47K, that is kind of where you can look for money flow to, if money flow is starting to spend a lot of time in the red, right? Typically, you do spend a decent time in the red, starts trending back up. Well, at that point, you could say, well, hey, this isn't really what you see for a big continuation down. Kind of the same thing here. It's like, once you get that bull div, you start pushing back up. Money flow is trending into the green. It's like, well, hey, you're probably not going back down to 12K because once that money flow crosses green, the anticipation is higher lows, higher highs, right? Continuation of that uptrend. But it could be very different, right? If you wind up getting a super fast drop to the downside here, we start bing-bonging around 47K, and this money flow is still really early in the red, it's hard to say, right? At that point, it's like maybe that looks a little bit more likely. So again, you need a little bit more information. It's kind of hard to forecast that deep into the future. So really, it's an if this, then that, right? We come on down to this level, what's going to happen here? We'll keep an eye on the price action. What signals are we getting? What's money flow doing, etc. But, kind of hard to forecast that all the way down here. Really relies a lot on what happens up here, how long we spend. All right, so there we go. Let's see. Everybody's saying what's up to Golden. Let's go. Shout out to Golden, man. Yeah, weekly money flow is screaming bear market. Yes, I mean, I would say 100% we are in a bear market. Shout out to Crypto Owl in the chat. All right, so let's see here. Just kind of bing-bonging around here, guys. I am in a scalp long here. Kind of expect to get stopped out of that, to be quite honest, because we are fighting specific signal here. Red dot on the 80-minute with our 5-minute money flow looking to trend out here could give us a little continuation of that trend. But kind of like, boring consolidation for Bitcoin here. But I will take a look at some of the altcoins here. We'll take a look at Ethereum, right? Not going to be much of a change here as from what we looked at yesterday. Where is our Ethereum chart that we looked at? Right over hither. There we are, right? So Ethereum, come on, volume profiles. Let's go. Take a sip of that Aztecian Cactus Black coffee. XRP, yeah, we'll take a look at XRP, DJ, no problem. Shout out to Gen Z in the chat. XLM, yeah, we'll try to take a look at XLM. Eats the $500. Shout out to Perry. All right, so when we take a look here at Ethereum, guys, of course, yesterday, value area high, key level of support here, right? We get accepted into the range, right? We get a drop back down into the range. We're trying to hold above this. If we lose this value area high, right, like very clear volume profiles here. You have your balance up here, balance down here. Once you lose this balance, right, next place for price to likely gravitate to is going to be the previous value. it's nice, at least at this point, right, that we had not gotten the drop in, the bearish retest, and then the send down to the POC. But, this kind of just remains the same, right? If we hold on top of the value area high, the next big area that I'll be looking at is between 21.94 and 23.18. Confluent with your value area low, you have your 786 and your golden pocket retracement. This could be an area, your first kind of local area to look for a bearish retest and then a lower high before getting accepted into put in a lower low breaking structure to the downside into your point of control here at about 1627. And then at that point, right, like if you start losing the POC, guess what's next, right? Probably the value area low. But right now, locally, I would say, you're trying to hold on top of your value area high. Your 2-day green dot is confirmed. Didn't really get much out of that just yet. Your 3-day green dot is looking to confirm. But look at your money flow, guys, right? Like until we see this money flow on the higher time frames start to like really look a lot better, you really got to question if we are going to continue down, right? Especially on the weekly. Weekly money flows in the red. As long as that weekly money flow is in the red, the overall anticipation doesn't mean you can't get bounces. All right, but the overall anticipation will be lower highs and lower lows, lower highs and lower lows. Same thing here, right? Weekly money flow crosses red. Sure, you could get the bounces, but you're looking for overall lower highs and lower lows. Money flow indicates the trend, right? Not the ebbs and flows, the ebbs and flows, the ebbs and flows, right? It indicates the overall trend. That's how you could, very good way to stay on the right side of the trades. It's basically a filter letting you know if you should be fading the highs or gig along in the lows. It's one of the big reasons why we were able to short the highs here at $98,000, at $91,000, at $90,000, because money flow was screaming, fade the highs for the continuation down. Fade the highs for the continuation down. Not gig along the lows. We actually did long this low within the context of a profile, but just up into the key of resistance where we took profit and flipped short. And that was all helpful by looking at your money flow, especially on the weekly, right? This is screaming lower highs and lower lows. So it'd be the same thing there on Ethereum. Key value area high sits at about $2,000, right? You get accepted below here. If you're not going to get a retracement, right, get accepted in here. Next big key level of support, 1638. Hold above it, right? Local golden pocket 786 value area low retest, 2194 to 2318. Once we get above that 786, we can start to question if we can get a bigger move up towards that POC of 2625. Kind of just bing-bonging around between these profiles, right? And you can see here, POC, back out. You break into your upper value area, POC, you hold the low, back to the high, right? Let's see. All right, so let's take a look at XRP real quick. Yeah, XRP holding on for dear life here at our value area high at about $1.40. I covered this yesterday. Really nothing has changed. Again, high time frame, money flow coming out, right? Bear market kind of goggles here. Can't get out of this volume profile, guys. Like, the overall anticipation is a potential continuation. Maybe down towards the POC at about 83 cents, right? That would be the next logical place to look inside the profile. I'll even mark these levels out for you. You have your value area high. You have your, whoops, let me just make this. You have your value area high sitting there at about $1.40, POC at about 83 cents, value area low at about 69 cents, giggity. So yeah, it's like just very simple kind of thought process, right? It's like, get in here, can't break out, right? At that point, you would look to continue your journey down towards your 83 cent POC. And I believe we actually were bouncing here off of, where are the MPOCs? Let me just pull this up real quick. I think we had like a daily down here potentially. What do we have down here? I might be thinking of a different coin. But you do have this little consolidation here that you're sticking to. But I would say just from like an overall longer term perspective, I'll take these dailies off. I'll take that 786 off. Oh, actually, you know what it is? It's because we're on a different chart. Bada boom. There we go, right? We had a weekly MPOC down here and two dailies. You're bouncing off the weekly MPOC, right? And this is kind of the only thing that you have underneath you before that point of control, right? So if we can't get out of this value area, we get accepted below $1.40. These two dailies are still untapped, right? Maybe that gives you a little bit of a bounce, right? But at the end of the day, right, if you can't get out there, next magnetic target there would be the POC at about 84 cents. So the bullish hope here, right? And again, taking a look at the weekly money flow in the red. If you get the green dot, sure, that can give you a bounce to the upside. If that is the case, the biggest level of resistance to look at here for XRP is going to be between $1.91 and $2.15. You have the value area low, golden pocket 786. I can't guarantee if you get a bounce, you're going to get all the way up there. There's going to be local levels to look at as well. But if you do get some kind of a big bounce there, this is the largest level to look at. This would be a big place to potentially look for the downtrend to continue for a lower high, and then maybe you get the lower low into the POC or maybe those dailies. But right now, locally, I would say you're really fighting on top of this. Like if I just hide these other levels, all right, you're really fighting on top of this value area high. So very similar to Ethereum, right? You have the upper profile, the lower profile, trying to hold on top of the upper profile. You do not want to get accepted in here. This is the doorway to lower prices. I know doorway is one word. But can't get out here, right? $1.05, lose that, probably 83 cents. Get above it. Highest I would be willing to look right now is the value area low, golden pocket 786, between $1.91 and $2.15. Take a look at the daily, right? Daily money flow has been in the red for quite some time. I wouldn't say there's any massive, I wouldn't say this is super cleanly trending to the upside or anything like that. This is just kind of flat, so hard to get a clear view on that as of right now. So I would watch the key levels for now. Let's see. Shout out to Eliante? Is that what that says? Eliante? Shout out to you, brother. Thank you for the super chat. Said, do you think this could be a good entry point if the alt season happens? Shout out to you, brother. I think alt season is the next alt season I would be paying attention to would be for the next cycle. The opportunity, in my opinion, for the alt season would have been either, right, getting Bitcoin to go into new all-time highs, right? That would be opportunity number one with dominance obviously dumping, or having Bitcoin go into some kind of bigger, at least retracement, even if it was going to put in the lower high, see that bigger retracement on falling dominance. I am not, this is not an environment where I would be paying attention to alt season. Obviously, in a bear market, not really a place where I'd be paying attention to that. Yo, shout out to Golden. Thank you for the super chat. Said, I made a mistake in my last message. Don't sell the goats. Take them with you to the Caribbean. Shout out to Golden. Yeah, it's okay, Phoebe. He's not. He took it back. Phoebe was getting upset. She's so cute. She's curled up on the floor sleeping next to me. Man, shout out to Golden. Never sell your goats. Only buy goats, guys. We don't even sell goats. We don't take profit on the goats. We only buy the bottom. Yo, independent crypto said, canceled. Sell the goats, canceled. Yeah, D's, shout out to Panda the Prophet. Like, DCA your spot bags for the next cycle. That would be more of an approach I would take on the altcoins at this point. Not financial advice. All right. Let's see here. John Santos dropping the value area low emoji. But yeah, so we took a look at XRP, took a look at Ethereum. Let me check that. What did OCB want us to take a look at? Caspa. All right, so we'll take a look at some of the altcoins. Quick reminder, guys, please do not super chat your altcoins. It does not guarantee that we will look at them. But before we take a look at Caspa and some of the others, I will just take a look at one of the big boys here, Solana. Give you guys a little update here. Of course, right, like overall sentiment will remain the same with Bitcoin, guys. If Bitcoin continues to capitulate down, obviously the altcoins are very likely to follow. But, of course, from a lower time frame context here, Solana had gotten the acceptance into its value area down to the POC. We lose the POC down to the value area low. We deviated into a beautiful monthly and monthly MPOC and weekly horizontal. Got a little bit of a bounce there. At this point, I would say personally for me, let's see, yeah, you don't really have the confluence here. I wish you had confluence there on that full golden pocket value area low. You simply don't. But at this point, right, your hope for Solana, right, locally would be like, you got to hold on top of this value area low to keep the doorway open to the POC. Value area low right now sits at about 81, call it about $81. If you're able to stay above here, just like any other volume profile, you hold on top of there. Doorway to the POC remains open. Once you lose that, right, I would at least look for a bigger continuation down, and I'll try to give you an idea of what I would expect here. But, you know, You have your golden pocket 786 sitting down here, but just have a funny feeling here. Not that I would ever base my trades off a funny feeling, but it's just, I don't know. You get down to that 786. The thing I wouldn't like about coming down, just retesting the 786 golden pocket for a higher low to then get accepted into the profile, is the fact that, like, you wouldn't really have any confirmation, right? Like, you wouldn't have any bullish divergences because, of course, if you bounce off that 786, you would not be putting in a lower low. So I'll be careful with that. I would much prefer, not saying it's the higher probability, but I would much prefer just to see, Solana, for the most part, just hold this value area low. That would keep your doorway to the POC open. Once you lose that, I would at least be looking for the move back down towards about $73. And then once you lose $72, right, that's where I'm looking to take out that low. And when we look left here for some new levels to the downside, because, of course, don't believe, your next major level is kind of sitting down here at the monthly MPOC and the weekly at about $57. If we pull up the visible range volume profile, get a little bit of a kind of just a clean visual view on the volume here. Come on, volume. There we go. Didn't even really move that much, right? Like, yikes. Not a ton of volume here, right? Like, you had most of your high volume node up here, right? Low volume gap, quick move to the value area low, little high volume node, another quick gap down here. You got another node down here on that monthly MPOC at about $57. There's not a lot underneath you besides that. Maybe, just maybe you have a daily in there somewhere. I think they're all taken. I will mark them out, right? But the monthly MPOC is always going to be that bigger level. Let's see here. Yeah, that daily's taken. That daily's already marked out. Yeah, you got a daily right here. And then that daily is tapped. You got another daily down here. And you got another daily down here. All right, so that's kind of where all your confluence is. Not a lot between the loss of that weekly, right? And more specifically, this weekly's tapped, right? But that 786 is 72.23, 72.14. Once you lose that, right, not only am I looking to take out that low, but I have to say, where's the next level of support? Could you just sweep that low real quick and get back up, reclaim the weekly and the monthly MPOC? Maybe, but there's not much underneath you from, call it $72 all the way down to between 60 and $51, right? This is your next big area of confluence, and I would put a little bit of an emphasis on that monthly and weekly, or monthly MPOC and weekly, just because they're higher time frame. All right, that would be like the next big area to look for, and then you have those two dailies backing you up. So there you go, right? If Solana continues down, you really want to hold on top of that. I don't know how much I like that for acceptance back into your range, but once you lose that, probably going to be looking down here between $60 and $56, $57. Yeah, weekly money flow still in the red here. So, of course, right, environment is very important to pay attention to. You have to trade the market you're given, not the market you want. Even if we want Solana to go into all-time highs, right? The chart is the boss here. Shout out to Eliante. Says, but if you look at the 1 minute, we're pumping. Yeah, I don't know. We were pumping. Now we're dumping. We'll probably be pumping again. Shout out to Golden said, it's definitely not a cult. Pinocchio knows. Guys, we're not a cult. We do light candles. We love candles. We kind of worship candles. We worship goats. I don't know. It's not a cult, though. It's a friendly mafia. Let's see. Shout out to Belinda. Says, good morning, guys. Thanks for all you do. Frankie, love your good heart and great community. Shout out to Belinda. Welcome in. We appreciate you, and I also appreciate our great community. Shout out to Eliante. Hashtag not a cult. All right, let's take a quick look. I'll do a quick look at Caspa. We have not looked at Caspa in quite some time. I'm not really going to dig like super deep into the altcoins because, again, guys, like in the context that we're in right now, I think a lot of people just want to know, like, is my altcoin going to pump? But, of course, in, like, the overall environment that we're in, of course, we can get bounces. We can get retracements. Like, on Cardano, for example, I think this is, like, the best example that I can bring up, because we were very, we looked at this a bunch of times. We were very explicit about it. It's like, what is the, people say, what about Cardano? What about Cardano? Like, it's bouncing. Oh my God, is this bullish? Not all bounces are created equal, right? A lot of people were excited about this. A lot of people were excited about this. We even had some bullish confirmation here on some nice divergences into the POC for a bounce to the upside. But of course, right, like with the situation Bitcoin was in for a likely continuation down, and the situation that Cardano was in for the very likely acceptance into your range, move to the POC, continuation down eventually to the value area low. This is the highest probability. So I don't really want to sit there and just call every little ebb and flow on every single altcoin. But this is, just kind of, if Bitcoin continues down, right, like a lot of this stuff is going to do the same thing. So taking a look at Caspa, right, I wouldn't say he actually had a... Yeah, I mean, let's look at this from a high time frame perspective. Take a look at the, we'll actually keep the VPVR on here for a second, right? So you're bouncing into, you have a weekly MPOC down here, high volume node, so you do have some support here. Just kind of mark out that high volume node into the weekly MPOC. This is a super key level of support. If you lose 0.024, I mean, you don't really have a lot underneath you until you start getting down into the 1 cent zone, right? Pretty big volume gap. But at the end of the day, this is support. Let me just pull this up real quick. So for me personally, right, like I'm not personally interested in trading altcoins right now. But I mean, you are bearishly backtesting this monthly and weekly, very high time frame levels of that once were support, now resistance. So this would be, what do you say, 0.037. And maybe a little head and shoulders there. Not a pattern trader, but maybe. So 0.037, I think, is what he was looking at. We're now below. We're now below that. But yeah, I mean, from a high time frame perspective, or a lower time frame perspective, it's like maybe we can try to pull this huge deviation below that volume profile. But you do have a local value area low here. This is just something I would not be really interested in. I'm not saying it can't go up or anything. Got your 2-hour money flow attempting to cross into the green, but it's just really the 3-hour money or 4-hour money flow trying to trend up as well with a potential green dot. 5-hour looking to print the green dot. Let's check the daily real quick. Yeah, you're about to print a daily red dot. I don't know. I'm more in the camp of, like, I would just let this thing figure itself out. You print this daily red dot. Probably, that's just going to be a big thing that you're going to be fighting for a long. And that's, of course, not printing just yet. But if that does, this VWAP rolls over, crosses the zero line, very high probability that you will get a continuation down. So for me personally, right, if I were looking for a long here, I would just be waiting for the lower levels. I think a lot of people, right, shout out to OCB, I don't know if this is the case for you, but a lot of people just want to, like, jump into the trades, right? Like, for me, obviously, I really like to wait for those key levels. That's where the highest probability reactions are. So, like, for me, I'm not saying that you can't come up from where you're at right now, right? Maybe get a bigger move into, I think he was looking at like 4 cents. I mean, this is big resistance. You got to first flip 0.033 to 0.034. Like, you're going to have to get above that before you could even start looking at, 4 cents. And then that would kind of be a range retest there. If I were to, let me take this off the chart. Old levels. All right, kind of pull this lower range. That might be where you're getting that level from, like 0.41. So, yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad place. Like, even down here, like 0.39 to retest these lows. Definitely would be places where I would look to potentially take some profit on a long. But for me personally, right, if you were to say, like, I'm not giving a setup here, but, like, if I were looking to take a long here, I would at least want to wait for a golden pocket 786 retest. I'm not even saying I'm super interested in that necessarily. But yeah, I just personally wouldn't be interested in the long here. Not that say that it can't play out, right? If you see a setup, you want to take it, I would just be real careful between about 0.33 and 0.34. Once you get above that, I mean, you got a little volume fall off till about 0.037, and then up there towards the value area low, about 4 cents to 0.41. So yeah, and then if you pull your fib here, you're probably going to get some kind of confluence. Yeah, right there you have confluence on your value area low, right? So that will be a big level of resistance. Pull from the lower high, right? So, yeah, I would just be careful. You got to flip that support. That'd be the first big wall, in my opinion. Then once you get above that, I mean, you still got to fight this fib, but you do have a fall-off in volume. So, yeah, not something I'd really be interested in, to be honest with you. I'd rather wait for a pullback. So there you go. I'm curious, OCB, is that where you're getting that 0.41 level? I would not be shocked if it is. I'll be so proud if it is. All right, let's see here. What's the volume indicator on the right-hand side of the screen? This is the visible range volume profile, which is essentially the same tool as the fixed range volume profile, except the visible range just pulls the volume for all the visible candles on the chart. You'll see it changes, right, because it's pulling in these candles. If I zoom in, now it changes because it's now only taking in the candles that are shown. If I zoom in like this, now it's only showing these candles, volume will shift, right? The fixed range lets you select the volume you want to look at, and it also gives you the value area, right, which is a huge part of my trading strategy, obviously, so very important. But, yeah, this is the visible range volume profile. Let's see. All right, let's continue on here. All right, let's come back over to Bitcoin real quick. Just kind of still bing-bonging around here. Chopping and chopping and chopping. But let's see, where's that 5-minute money flow crossing into the red yet? There it is. 5-minute money flow crossover, 80-minute red dot printing. Let's see what happens here. Actually pull up the local levels here just to get a little bit more tangible. Right? It's like we could be waiting forever for this POC. So let's pull up the local levels up in this local volume profile. Testing at the value area low, right? If we could hold above here, doorway to the POC is open. I just don't feel super confident on that if we see this 5-minute money flow continue into the red, right? And the reason for that is because we have this 80-minute red dot printing. When you have the 80-minute red dot and the 5-minute money flow crossing into the red, that is technically a market cipher B bearish setup, which is why I am not confident on the scalp long that I'm holding right now. Shout out to Wolf of Crypto. Said, hi there, Mafia. Love the early stream. Shout out to Wolf of Crypto. Good to see you in here, brother. We love having you in here. Tried a couple of head shorts when 4-hour CVD went positive, but they all got stopped out. Obviously, still holding my short from 88K. Yeah, I am still holding my shorts as well. Obviously, a bunch of profits locked in on the shorts at this point as we have come into major support, but obviously still going to hold a portion of those in case we do get that bigger continuation to the downside. 98K, 91K are my personal shorts. Literally shorted 125K or 124K, I think, as well. But those were closed earlier. But yeah, short from the most recent highs here. Shout out to New Earth Guardian. Shout out to Digital Asset Degen, said alt season was the nicest colonoscopy. That is insane work, bro. All right, let's see. Shout out to Golden, said, on a serious note, why the hell is everybody buying anything right now? Short it until it goes even lower. We are not close to the bottom yet, folks. Shout out to Golden. Yeah, that's why I am not super interested in altcoins right now, guys. And it is kind of hard because most of the time people, when they say, hey, I just bought X altcoin, they're typically like buying the altcoins like in these environments where I'm usually like, oh my God, why? Like, why? Please, for the love of God. But anyway, there's like, oh my God, I'm buying, which I guess this would have been a better buy than up here. But it is hard for me to say, right? Like, if Bitcoin continues down, I would expect the altcoins to go lower. But when people tell me like, hey, I'm buying Dogecoin, like dang near the 2022 lows, it's a lot harder for me to be like, oh my God, you're buying the top, right? Like clearly you're not buying the top. So it is a little bit harder for me. But yeah, I am not super interested in altcoins right now. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is there is time to buy altcoins before, like if we do see another massive alt season, which again, I do think the environment of alt season has changed. We have way more altcoins out there now. It's harder for the liquidity to flow into whatever it is, millions of altcoins rather than like a couple thousand. So I do personally think gone are the days. I think the reason why altcoin season was so muted this cycle was just because we had a lack of liquidity, right? Lack of social interest in crypto. We didn't have massive money printing like we did back in 2021. But I also think that like the environment of altcoins is changing, right? I think gone are the days of I remember the glory days back in, 2017 and even in 2021 where it's like kind of throw a dart at a board, price pumps, lifting, rising tides lifts all ships kind of deal. Like you just throw a dart at a board, whatever altcoin you land on, you buy it at 50Xs. I think we are entering a much different market environment in crypto as a whole. I think you are just, as time goes on, going to have to be much more picky with the altcoins that you hold. And, the longer I stay in the space, to be honest, like the more heavily I weight myself on Bitcoin and higher cap altcoins, rather than just like degen picking, super low cap altcoins. And that I think will always be a game that you can play. But I think just the environment of alt seasons have changed, just with as the asset matures, right? As the amount of altcoins increases, right? It's harder for the liquidity to flow into, again, like 2 million altcoins or whatever it is, rather than like 1,500 or 2,000 of them. And just in general, right, we just did not have as much liquidity as we did back here in 2021. But maybe, right, maybe if we do end up getting the new Fed chair, right, maybe they wind up, printing money like crazy, maybe we can get something like that to happen again. But right now, not super interested in altcoins. Shout out to Digital Asset Degen said Coinbase commercial shown at a Super Bowl party is going viral for everyone booing at the end. That's great. That is pretty funny. Actually, I saw almost all the commercials. I did not see the Coinbase. I had the one commercial I missed was the Coinbase commercial. Alt season being the nicest colonoscopy is insane. But yeah, so we'll keep a look out here for, whoops. All right, well, put an alert above this high in case we get that. We'll put an alert below the low in case we take out the low. Let's see what we get here. 7-minute money flow trying to come out as well. You do have some bull divs down there as well. Let's check that 2-hour. Yeah, 2-hour red dot with the 7-minute money flow. Kind of fighting some stuff here at the low. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything here. Pakistan announced ICP partnership. Interesting. Take a look at ICP real quick. Yeah, kind of just... Yeah, I don't know. It's like the news events, guys, like I say this every stream. It's like, I don't know, news events they just don't do anything for me. Just always going to go with the charts. And like I kind of explained this last night. It's like when I maybe if the news agrees with the charts, then that's great. But I've never looked back. I've never listened to the TA or made a decision based off TA and looked back and been like, dang, I should have paid attention to that news. This is typically where I pull up the cycle chart. I pull up all the news events, right? Bullish news usually comes in at the highs. Bearish news usually comes in at the bottoms. There's a big reason for it, right? It's not just random. But, yeah, I mean, like, regardless of the news, right, my stance here on ICP would pretty much be the same, right? 786 is your biggest key level underneath you, about $1.83. Start losing the 786 here, right? Like, I'd be looking to take out this low and fill the wick to about $1.16. If you're able to hold above, right, we've already bounced off the golden pocket. You can't reclaim the golden pocket or the value area low. Next likely place for price to go is that 786. Maybe you can form some higher time frame bull divs here. But again, like, this is all going to matter on what Bitcoin is doing, but maybe if you could form some higher time frame bull divs here into the 786, look for reclaiming the value area low, and then at that point, once you get accepted in, that would be looked at as a failed auction. Rotate it back in towards that POC. Other than that, I mean, this is kind of just still in the same situation that we looked at previously. Obviously, golden pocket, front ran, value area low holds, lose the golden pocket. Yeah, I mean, this is your next key level of support. $1.83. If you lose this, right, I would at least look to take out the low here at about $1.16. And then, of course, I can't look left. The only thing I can really do there is pull up the extensions. Like 70 cents at your next extension. But, you know, of course, you still got to lose the 786. You still got to lose this low. But underneath you, like really the only thing I can see here, again, because I cannot look left, is going to be about 70 cents. Other than that, right, higher time frame view, weekly money flow in the red. Same song and dance. Look at the gold chart. We could take a look at gold. SUI, we could try to take a look at SUI. Aster or Hype. We could take a look at Hype. Let's take a look here. Well, there we go. So we actually looked at Hype not too long ago. Hype had these nice rotation down through its volume profile, right? Back in, POC, can't get out, back to the POC, back to the low on that rotation into your key level of support here with these nice high time frame bullish divergences. Had it on the 2-day, I believe the 3-day as well, giving you a nice pop to the upside where we brought up our next major key levels of resistance. Of course, bullish divergences are a reversal signal for a potential, obviously in a bullish divergence situation, the move would be to the upside. But next major levels of resistance sitting here on your golden pocket / 786 zone, golden pocket value area low confluence. Then you have the monthly and weekly POC / POC of the range in confluence with your 786. These are the first two big levels to look for the rejection. You get the push up, start rejecting the golden pocket. I don't think you tapped the weekly or the monthly MPOC, but there's the rejection from the golden pocket value area low. Red dot looking to print here on the 3-day. Money flow also curving back out here. And again, right, in the context, we don't have weekly money flow here. I don't know what this weekly money flow looks like. And the reason that matters is because if this weekly money flow was in the red for quite some time and we have now starting to come up into the green, this could make me look for potential higher lows and higher highs, right? But I just don't have that information, so I have to look down to some of these lower time frames like the 3-day, check the 2-day money flow trying to come back up. 4-day money flow is like freshly crossed into the red with an incoming red dot. This would have to make me look at this through the lens of potential lower highs and potential lower lows. Now, of course, you have all this support down here, but, you know, just overall, right, continuation here, if money flow is continuing out, right, well, low, high, low, high, lower, low. Yeah, or high, low, lower, high, lower, high, potential lower, low. But, of course, you do have all this pretty nice support down here. You have this nice volume profile. If we have to come back down and retest this, right, you're going to have your value area high as support. So, to the downside, if this does continue, which if you get the 2 and 3 and 4-day red dots, I would anticipate this push down to continue. We could look at the volume profile underneath you, right? You have your golden pocket right on your value area high. So that would be key support level number 1. Obviously, you don't want to get accepted into this profile. If you do, right, lose the value area high. Next likely place for price to go is the POC. Lose the golden pocket. Next likely place for price to go is the 786. And you have confluence there on your 786 and your POC. Once you lose that, right, obviously we're looking down towards the value area low. And me personally, based off the money flow and the rejection here from your golden pocket, if you end up losing that POC, I'd probably look to take out this low. So very hard for me to say, like, 3-4 day money flow freshly turned into the red. All right, that does make me think that this could be a lower high for a lower low. But if you don't want that, right, and you want to look for a higher low and a higher high, right, this would be the first level. This would be the second level. First zone sitting between 26.77 and 25.45. Once you lose that, you're looking down here to the POC 786 at 23.85 and 23.32. So there you go. That's what I'd be looking at here on hype. Let's take a look at the daily. Yeah, daily money flow getting rejected here, but generally trending to the upside as well. So if you are, I mean, even if you hold these local fibs, which you're probably tapping right now, yeah. So I would say line in the sand to get the move down to the value area high is 29.43. Lose this 786, I'd say your next very likely stop is going to be this zone down here. So you're kind of at like a decision time here. Can't hold the 786, I'd be looking down here. If you do hold this, right, maybe you get the green dot on the daily. One other thing I can see here is maybe higher high into the 786 for a nice little daily bearish divergence. Something like that could be at play as well. But again, I would not personally be interested in trading the altcoins right now. Shout out to Digital Asset T-Chen. Said, gotta run. Was nice to stop in for a bit. Catch on Nerds later. Shout out to you, brother. Thanks for stopping by. Bull div on the 1 hour for Bitcoin. Thoughts? Take a look. Yeah, you got one here. Again, right, it's going to be very contextually based, right? 1 hour money flow in the red. Come on. Come on, TradingView. You can do it. You can do it. Or maybe you can't. 16-hour red dot printing, right? So, like, this is not necessarily something I like to see. Like, this is a market cipher B bearish setup. 1/16th bearish setup, right? 16-hour red dot, 1 hour money flow crossing into the red. And it's more indicative of continuation of the downtrend, at least based on the 1 hour there. So it's like, it's not like you have like beautiful confluence. And then again, you also have the 80-minute red dot printing with your 5-minute money flow crossing into the red. That is also more indicative of a continuation to the downside. Yeah, you just don't have a ton of confluence. Let's see. 4 hour VWAP. We were printing a 4 hour green dot, but I think that unprinted. Yeah, you got a little rejection there at the 0 line. So yeah, I mean, you do have it, right? Just from like a educational standpoint, this is 100% a bullish divergence, right? But not all bullish divergences are created equal. You know, you could even say that that has already played out. For me to see this as a reversal signal and then higher lows and higher highs, I mean, you do have some mixed signals, but you know, I really would want that money flow crossing into the green, right? Overall, when money flow is coming out, right, typically the anticipation is lower highs, lower lows, continuation of the downtrend. Again, not financial advice. If you want to take a long off that, that's totally up to you. Not saying that it's impossible to play out, but just not typically what I look for a nice continuation. When will the chop end? I hope it doesn't last for months like it did up here. I was very explicit about hating this. This range was absolutely brutal. Man, absolutely brutal. It's just no interest. Nobody cares. But yeah, you know, overall, we are still in a bear market, right? So it's like that's kind of the hard part of my job, right? It's like I could compare it to down here. Like, yes, guys, we are anticipating bigger drops to the downside, but when you hit into support, that's not the place to really get bearish, kind of like down here, right? Like, that's not the place to start opening shorts, although a lot of people did. I don't know why. I always look at that on the order flow, like, why do people insist on doing this? I don't understand. But it's like down here, it's like this is kind of where it gets very difficult because people are like, are you bearish or bullish? Well, listen, from this level, right, we come into massive support. Technically, if you're looking for a bounce, that would be considered bullish, right? But over the long term, the anticipation is always, in this case, lower highs, lower lows, right? So it's like, are you bullish or bearish? It's like, it depends on the time frame you're looking at. So like, I would say, you know, you just got to be careful getting like bearish at the lows as you're tapping into major support that we have here. But at the same time, right, you're in a bear market. So like the overall anticipation has to be a continuation down over time. So a lot of people just want to know, like, what is the level that when tapped, it goes to all-time highs? It's impossible. It's impossible. You need some kind of confirmation. 4-hour time frame buy more. Shout out to MTT. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Why'd 6 people put thumbs down, haters lurking? I don't know, man. I don't know. I always try to imagine what it's like to click thumbs down on a video. Like, even if I don't like videos, spending the time to click thumbs down is kind of wild, in my opinion. It's like, I don't know. I guess, like, maybe so it doesn't pop up on your algorithm. I don't know. It's just wild. I just, like, click off the video. It's like I always try to think about that. But anyway, let's take a look at gold. All right. Let me just make sure. Maybe it was that guy that said, why did you scream randomly? That's annoying. You probably click thumbs down. I feel bad for these people, bro. I feel bad for people like that, man. It's like, I don't just imagine. Like, I don't know. I've been bad places in my life where stuff like just everything irks you. It's like, just imagine saying that stuff is, I feel bad. I genuinely do feel bad for those people. But anyway, so yeah, let me take some of these levels off the chart. So we had the major targets up here, pushed into the last Fibonacci extension target. Kind of pushed into the first one, got a little bit of a reaction, flipped it, came to the top, and then got that reaction right here off the first zone of that extension. Get the pullback. One thing we were looking at here on gold was the 10-hour money flow. Man, TradingView is struggling today. Man, kind of wonked here, right? You don't want to fade this, like, obviously higher time frame money flow, thick in the green. You want to be really careful with that. You don't want to really fade that too heavy. But of course, right, you did have these weekly bearish divergences, super extended, super, like, exaggerated. Exaggerated is the wrong word, because exaggerated divs are more like equal highs, right, with, like, you know, say a lower high in your momentum. That's technically an exaggerated bear div. I'm using the word exaggerated as a general term, right? It's very intense. But you did have the weekly bear divs here. You get the drop down. But of course, money flow is still very, very thick in the green. Like I've said before, like, no saying that this isn't the top of the money flow wave, but it's really, really hard to predict. Taking a look at the daily money flow, still kind of getting the pops up here. Let's check the monthly, right? Your monthly red dot is also looking to print. You do not have a monthly bearish divergence, but this will be kind of the next thing to look at. Monthly red dot for a potential continuation to the downside. Take off that 786, 65, and 618. Try to find some of these key levels. I could try to pull, like the only ranges, I can't really pull any clean volume profiles here, right? Because it's all like aggressive trending price action. Yeah, so I mean, like, I try to pull something like this. I mean, there you go, back test of the value area high. Try to pull this full fib here. All right, so you got into that golden pocket value area high. I'm pretty sure we drew these levels already. Draw it over here. Might be on a different chart, but nonetheless, right? Golden pocket. This is your first major level of big key support. Second level will be the 786 POC. This would be, right, if we do end up continuing down, depending on what money flow looks like on the higher time frames, if you do continue down, right, if you get a lower high and a lower low, you know, this could be a big place to look for a bounce. Got to be careful around the value area high at about 4,444, or, you know, 40, call it 44. Let me mark it out so we can get the actual level to stay there. All right, value area high. Let's go before the impulse brings you down there, which is also interesting. So yeah, I would look at this range between, or this zone, between about 44.13 up to about 45.47 Once you lose that level, right, we've already kind of tapped into that golden pocket. I don't typically look for these to hold up 2 times in a row. We get back down here, I would expect the 786 POC. That'd be your next level to look at. You got to be careful around that value area high in case you get accepted into the range to rotate in full. But if you're able to get that bounce, get back out of the range, that is a 786 Fibonacci retracement. Could be a place to look for a pretty decent bounce. So those would be the 2 big zones I would look at if you get the continuation to the downside. If you continue up, right, your next extension target still sits here at about 56.76. And I would say the line in the sand there to look for 56.76 to get tapped is to break above 53.45. That would be your line in the sand. Break this, probably headed up here to crack structure to the upside. So there you go. Let's see. Is Bitcoin a good stock? Shout out to the Dusty Hunt. Yeah, I think it's a good stonk. I think so. Not right now, though. It's looking like a pretty bad stonk right now. Shout out to us. Said, maybe we go up, maybe we go down. More likely we go to this level, but it could happen. It could happen that we go here first and then there. Perfect, thanks. Shout out to us. I will tell you as somebody who's been previously in the mindset that you are, you want somebody to tell you that you have a key level where price will guaranteed move. You are searching for something that doesn't exist. Trading and investing is a game of probabilities, right? You have to identify the bullish and the bearish case, right? If investing or trading was as easy as saying when it gets down here, that's the bottom, that's where you're going to go up in full, you are listening to people who do not understand the market, and you are searching for something that doesn't exist. Trust me, I have looked for something like this when I first started, right? I'm like, well, someone's got to know where that perfect bounce is going to happen, right? So what do we do there, right? If looking at both cases was not capable of making money, right, we wouldn't make any money. But you have to look at the bullish and bearish case, right? If you have key levels down here, and I'll do this not necessarily for you, but for people who actually want to learn and understand how to legitimately make money in this market, you come on down to these levels, right? There is never going to be 100% certainty that this is the key level to look for. If you're looking for that, like I said, you were looking for something that doesn't exist, and you're going to be just end up losing your money constantly because you're going to look at that as an end-all, be-all level. You're going to put your whole bag in, and if the probability does not play out that is the bottom, and you are going to get absolutely cooked every single time. Trust me, I'm saying this from experience. I've been in that position. I've been looking for those exact things. Where's the perfect indicator to tell me, where's the perfect level? Where's the perfect strategy? It does not exist. It wasn't until I understood that I had to stop looking from a prediction mindset and start looking at a probability mindset. I think it upsets some people, especially new people that don't have a lot of experience, right? That you could get a bounce from this level, right? You have to understand the confluences, right, and the actual entry triggers that you're looking at. If this is a big key level of support, there's no guarantee that's just going to hold, right? You could come down to this level. If there's no confirmation to take a trade here or no confirmation that this is likely going to be a bottom, chances are that it might get some kind of reaction a little bit, right? But eventually you're going to nuke through that level, right? It's not going to be a good place to necessarily put your whole bag in or maybe take a trade, right? So there's always, at every single level of support, resistance, whatever you're looking at, there's always going to be an opportunity to get a bounce. There's also going to be an opportunity for that trade to fail, right? This is trading, right? And the way you can identify the probabilities is by looking at your confluence, right? By looking at your money flow, by understanding the trend, by understanding the order flow. Of course, this is not something that a lot of people want to learn because it takes a lot of time. They just want to know the level that they can just listen to somebody say buy, and that's where you take the trade. But again, it doesn't exist. If it was that easy, everybody would do it, and you just set up a bot to make $1 bazillion, right? But if you have a key level approached, right, and you have your massive bullish entry triggers, right, confluence, maybe your money flow is coming up, whatever it is that you're looking at, right? These things take time to learn. It's not easy, right? I think that's why people get upset because they're like, it's not that easy. I have to try hard. But if you do not get those entry triggers, right, well, chances are this level's probably not going to hold. And even if you do get the entry triggers and the confluence, right, you could take that trade, but you're always going to have to protect yourself against it going wrong, right? You always have to manage the risk. risk management over win rate every single time, right? If you have 5 levels like this and you go to take a long at all 5 of those levels and 3 of them play out, 2 of them fail, even if 3 of them fail and 2 of them play out in full, if you're using good risk management, right, you're going to take a small loss, a small loss, a small loss, and then 2 big wins. The wins are going to give you profit plus more, or I'm sorry, cover your losses plus profit. But you're never going to be able, there's times where I wait weeks for a level, I don't get my confirmations, I sit out of the trades, and price nukes through the level. Normally, I'm holding a short from higher, but this is how trading works, right? If you just want like a random level, is it going up or down? This is like a very common beginner question we get. Are we bullish or bearish? It's just not that simple, right? Because I could say I'm bullish on a low time frame, but super bearish on a high time frame. So I warn you that you're looking for something that doesn't exist. But yeah, a lot of people say like, well, how could you know? And I kind of get it, right? From a beginner standpoint, like, I don't get it. Like, it could go up, could go down. How do you make money off that, right? Well, it's a game of probabilities, right? And obviously, you can make money doing that, right? So it's never like, it's like if that were the case, right, we would never make money, right? I already have thousands of dollars locked in on this trade, up still unrealized $11,000. This is on WeX, so this is the short from $98,000, right? And at this position, right, $11,000 in profit. This trade could have gone up, right? The higher probability was that it was going to go down, which is why we took the trade. But there was still a chance that this would not play out and just continue up. So how do we protect ourselves, right? We just manage the risk. We set a stop loss for an acceptable small loss that we accept, that we're willing to take, right? I always recommend 1% to 2% of your account. If you stop out, we were also holding a long from $85,000 that eventually stopped out in profit. But if this decided to stop me out of this short position and continue to run, I would have continued to have the long pay me out from the bottom, and I would have taken a small loss there. The long would have paid me out, gave me back my losses plus profit, right? So here, right, we're saying, hey, could go up, could go down. Higher probability. We got the entry triggers we wanted to see. They were actually picture perfect in this particular setup. And we hit the key level. We get the confirmations. We have the confluence. We take the trade. Trade played out. Sometimes you're just going to take the trade. It's going to stop you out at a loss, right? That's just a game of probabilities. The key is to keep your manage the risk, right? Just make sure you're taking profits on your longs, which obviously I already have. But you know, if it wasn't possible, like, because I think a lot of new people take that stance. They're like, well, I don't get it. Could go up, could go down. How do you make money? You can make money. Trust me. That's only one of the shorts, right? The other short we have here is, where's it at? Where's it at? Right here. Is this, yeah, this is the one from 90,500, right? This one is up $10,000. Also have a ton of profits locked in there. Still have $10,000 unrealized, right? So you can absolutely make money like this. And I know it's hard to understand as someone who might have just gotten into the market or just started learning TA, but this is how it works, right? But I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear. They just want to see it like, what level do I hit long on, right? Just hit long here? Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is a level of support. You could hit long, right? But unfortunately, if you don't have confirmation, right, it could be a lower probability trade. So it takes time to learn. Nothing is certain in this game. Yeah, absolutely not. And the beauty is you could manage the risk, right? But it's a very common thought process, right? Because I remember when I first started trading, I was like, man, like, so you just have to accept that, like there's no clicking moment. There's no magical indicator. I'm never going to get good enough at TA to know exactly 100% what is going to happen. And the answer to that is absolutely not. There's never going to be a case, right? I can make as much money as I want, right? I am still, even when I take those trades, right? Even when I do end up taking those trades, I am never saying 100% probability, guys. That's the key level. It's guaranteed going to reject. There always has to be a plan in case it goes against you, right? Otherwise, you're just going to lose money. You're going to be gambling. That is not what you want to do. If you actually want to make money trading, you can't take a prediction mindset. You have to have a probability mindset. And then the key there is like the psychology. Like, oh, I got stopped out of the trade. You can't let that hurt your ego. You can't let that hurt your confidence. You just have to stick to the system, right? It's binary. Hit the key level, see the entry trigger, have the confluence, take the trade. If that stops out and I see the same setup the next day, I'm going to take that same exact setup. Very, very hard. Let's see. Yeah, almost every strategy is good. You just need risk management. Yeah, I say this all the time, right? Like, chances are if you're losing money, if you're losing money, right, like more often than not, right, it's not necessarily always the case, but I would say like 99% of the time, it's usually not the key levels. It's usually not the strategy. It's usually your trade management, right, or your psychology. I always give the example of two traders take the same trade, right? Two traders take this long position to the value area high. One makes money, one loses money, right? The one that makes money takes the trade, takes a partial TP at the point of control, closes the entire position at the value area high. Trader 2 takes the same exact trade, right? Well, I don't know why I even redrew this, but takes the same exact trade, right, in the anticipation of filling the entire volume profile, but they don't take any profit, right? They're just like, they get greedy. Oh my God, this is playing out. This is beautiful. If I take profit here, I'll make less money on the way back to the second target. I'm not going to take profit. Oh my God, this is pumping. This is going for the breakout. I want to make more. I want to make more. Oh no, okay, all right, it'll continue up. It'll continue. All right, we're gonna hold the POC. Oh wait, okay, never mind. Bada boom, and then you get stopped out at a loss. They both took a great trade, but one trader made money, one trader lost money. If you take a beautiful setup, right? If you have a beautiful setup here, and you take that trade and you do not manage that position correctly, that is 99% of 99% of the time the reason why people are losing money. Whether you're trading volume profiles, you could do it on volume profiles, whether you're trading patterns. Most strategies, like even ICT or anything like that, like a lot of those have enough of a win rate where you can make money as long as you're – and the other thing too is, you know, trader 2 might not even have a stop loss. And then what happens when the trade goes fully against him and he gets liquidated out of his entire position? You know, maybe trader 1 gets stopped out for a small loss, right? He lives to trade another day. Trader number 2 just gets liquidated, blows up his entire account, and he can't trade the next day, right? So 100%, right? Now, obviously, you do need a good strategy, right? Volume profile is one of the most profitable strategies you can use. But there's tons of other ones out there as well, right? If volume profiles don't click with you, you know, you could always use a different strategy. But of course, right, like the best strategy, the best TA is not going to help you if when you're in the position, you can't manage it, take profits, and just make the right decisions while you're in the trade. I always compare it to working out, right? You could have the best gym with the best equipment, the best personal trainer, the best diet plan. If you don't have the discipline to go to the gym, stick to the plan, eat right, not cheat, the personal trainer, the gym, all that stuff, the diet plan doesn't mean anything, right? They're important. You need those, right? But if you don't follow them or manage them correctly, right, like they're completely useless. It's like you could have a fat personal trainer, right? He could have all the knowledge on what to do correctly, but he could still be fat. Does that mean that the information he knows is bad? Not necessarily, right? But it just means that he doesn't have the discipline to follow those things, right? Or, I don't know, maybe he has a health problem or something. I don't know. But it's very, very comparable. Let's see. Yeah, you need to be greedy sometimes in order to make money. Yes, as long as you can identify the environment, right? You got to be in a bear market, right, for this, right? Obviously being very greedy with these shorts, right? So in a bear market, you want to be greedy with the shorts, conservative with the longs. In a bull market, you want to be greedy with the longs, conservative with the shorts. Doesn't mean you can't short in a bear market. We made a ton of money shorting in this bear market, but we just understood that they were going to be more conservative, and then you let the longs rip a lot longer, right? So understanding the environment is very important. Would you say someone making double their work salary per day knows how to trade? Yeah. I mean, if you make like $50K a year and you're making $100,000 a year trading, I mean, if you're making $50,000 a year trading, I would say you know what you're doing. Shout out to Jack said Trader 2 reporting for duty. Shout out to you, brother. Got to fix that, of course. But you know, most people won't even they don't have the self-awareness to understand that is the problem, right? They'll just strategy hop. It's a huge problem I see with traders is they'll just strategy hop. They'll be like, oh my God, I keep losing my trades, and then they jump to another strategy, and that's why 95% of traders fail, right? Most people just think like they're waiting for that aha moment where it's like, oh, this is the strategy I was looking for. It's 100% likely, right? Like even here, you push into a value area low, right? You could take a long position, maybe looking to go up to the POC. But in this particular environment, you have to understand context. And like even here, right? It's like, well, hey, if I'm expecting high time frame, lower highs and lower lows, which was the case, right? Maybe and I know I could be in a bear market environment. Well, maybe it's better to take some more profits up here on the long and then take a head short, right? Or, you know, really the long would be the hedge. But take a short here for the ride, back down for the higher probability scenario to play out, which was obviously the move to the downside. But most people just be like, I lost a trade. Like they lose one trade, they're like, that strategy doesn't work. Trust me, I know from 100% experience. I strategy hopped. I gambled. I didn't use stop losses. I didn't manage my trades. I got greedy and held them for more gains. The best thing I could tell people to do is emotionally separate yourself from the money. Right? I think the best way to understand if you should even attempt to be a trader, it's not for everybody, guys. It's not for everybody. I think one of the best things you can do is say to yourself, are you willing to put in an intense amount of work to learn how to trade while also accepting that you probably will not make a lot of money? I think that would cut out 90% of people who even try to trade, because they're going to say to themselves, well, no, I want to get into trading. I want to get rich. Like, I'm looking for 3-4 weeks maybe. I'm looking to get rich, right? So, but I think the people who are eventually going to make it are people who can actually extend their time horizon, emotionally remove themselves from the idea of the money, and just follow the system and try to grow the account, regardless of the money. Put in a small amount of money. You're not going to make $10,000 on a $100 account, right? Or, unless you take like a crazy gamble and get lucky, you could maybe do that, right? But it's very difficult. You put $100 into an account, you're probably going to make mistakes. You're probably going to blow that $100 up. You don't want to start trading, dumping $10,000 into your account, thinking you're going to turn it into $100,000. It's very, very dangerous. But then people will say, well, I don't want to put $100 in because then I'm only going to make like $3 profit on a trade. If that bothers you, right, and you're not willing to make $3 here, grow that $100 into $200 over a few months, and understand that 2xing a $100 account to $200 is the same thing as 2xing a $100,000 account, right? If you can't see that, right, or even making 5% on a $100 account would be $5. 5% on a $100,000 account or a $50,000 account is much more money, right? You could chase the higher amount of capital later, invest your own money, use a funded account, something like that. But in the beginning, while you're learning, you have to kind of protect yourself against the market tuition that you're very likely to pay. Most people don't want to psychologically surrender to that because they're looking to get rich quick. It doesn't exist, right? You can get lucky, right, but it's not going to be sustainable over time. But anyway, let's see. For 90%, it's best only to buy spot and low price and wait 2 years. Yeah. I mean, people come up to me in my personal life all the time, like people I know, family, friends. They go, hey, man, I see you making money trading. I want to learn how to do that. And, like, I know this person personally. I'm like, dude, listen, you have a full-time job. You have 3 kids. You have, I know you have a lot of hobbies that I know you're not going to want to give up. Like, day trading is probably not the game for you, bro. I would recommend buying Bitcoin on the dumps, during the bear markets, on the dips, slowly dollar cost average in, and then hold it for the next 10 years. And then they're just like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to buy the top and get rich overnight. And it's painful. It's painful. Shout out to Eleante. Thank you for the super chats. Just some fire and rocket ships. Let's get it, baby. Let's get it. What are the bear market targets? It's like a video game. Add the points up one at a time. Yeah, shout out to, pay attention to the percentages, right? Like I said, if you could turn $100 into $105, you could turn $100,000 into $105,000, right? That was the aha moment for me. I say this all the time. That was the click moment that I had in trading. It wasn't a strategy. It wasn't a key level that I wasn't looking at. It wasn't an indicator. It wasn't a signals group. All that stuff is a fallacy, right? It's important, right? The TA, the targets, the strategy is important, right? But really the aha moment for me was, in order for me to stop chasing gains, in order for me to stop chasing the get-rich-quick dream, in order for me to stop having unrealistic expectations, I had to separate myself from the money. And I said, I'm going to give myself 2 years. I want this. I'm going to do it or I'm going to die, right? And I don't think everybody has that kind of, I don't know, that like you have to really have that grit, right? You have to be willing to go through the garbage to get to the other side. A lot of people don't, 99% of the people don't want to do that, right? It's just like a statistical situation, right? But what I said to myself was, I'm going to take the next 2 years, focus on sticking to the strategy, sticking to the plan with a small amount of money and growing that, whether it's $100 to $200, $100 to $150. I'm going to focus on the percentages, the skill of managing the trade. I don't care about the dollar amount. And you can do this on a demo account as well. I recommend real money because you'll have at least some kind of skin in the game to feel the emotions, because you're going to have to deal with those eventually anyway. I gave myself 2 years to focus on the skill. After 2 years of actually trying my hardest, it would be unreasonable to think that I'm not going to make any progress. And it did not take 2 years, and my growth exponentially increased. My skill level went way up. My trade management went way up. My psychological and discipline, my emotional discipline went way up. And it didn't take 2 years, right? But it took me to accept that I was willing to let go of that get-rich-quick dream for 2 years for me to actually focus on what mattered. And then all of a sudden, whoop, started progressing extremely quickly, right? It's very hard, right? Like when you're making $7 on a trade, you're like, oh my God, like I'd like to make $100 in a day, right? And then you get to the point where you get stopped out for $3,000 and you're like, dang it. And you think back to the past and you're like, man, I used to make like $5 on a trade. Now I'm getting mad because I got stopped out in $3,000 in profit. So you got to get through all that stuff to get to the other end. All right, let's see. Slow money's better than no money. That's right. That's right. I think the long way is the fastest way in trading. The more you chase the fast route, the more you chase the get rich quick, the slower your journey is going to be. I promise. I went through it, right? Like I literally been in the exact same situation as most of you guys. Probably in a worse situation psychologically. 50K support is cope. If we lose, then 30K-ish. Yeah, shout out to World. That is pretty much my thought process. Lose about 47K. I would say pretty fast drop down. I mean, I'm not that I think it would happen in like 2 seconds, right? But of course, right? Like just simple volume profile perspective. Lose that POC. Next likely place for price to go. 30-ish K. 100%. Double bottom on CRV possible. Shout out to CRV. Shout out to Mr. J. We could take a look at CRV real quick. Let's see. I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know what bottoms you're looking at. Like bottom. That'd be like maybe a triple bottom with the wick. I don't know if you're looking at bottom. Double bottom is not what I would really look at, personally. Like I'm never looking like, oh my God, double bottom, send it up. Actually, what I really prefer is lower lows with a divergence. So I don't know exactly what you're looking at there, but we could take a look at this. Again, like high time frame, like pretty much the same situation as every other altcoin and Bitcoin, right? Like you just got to be really careful. Not that you can't get bounces, right? But biggest key level of resistance above you. I mean, you're starting to lose you lost your value area low here. Your next major level underneath you would obviously be your 786 golden pocket. All right, so what were we looking at before? Was it, I think, Solana, kind of the same situation, right? Like, this is kind of your next support, right? If you can't hold that 786 at 21, call it 21.61. If you lose this, cannot hold it, I'd be looking to take out the low here at about 20 cents. This would be your one opportunity to put in a higher low. Now, taking a look at the daily, right? Potential daily incoming red dot, VWAP rolling over towards that zero line. Once you print that red dot, check that 90-minute money flow is already in the red. So no real confluence there on the market site for B1/16. So again, it depends on like kind of the, again, it's like what double bottom, like this double bottom. I don't necessarily know exactly what you're looking at. But I would say from a medium or higher time frame perspective, this 786 is going to be absolutely critical. Is this a weekly level? Let me just mark this out real quick. Yeah, you've already tapped this. So you really got to hold this. You lose that 786 at, like, call it 21 cents, right? Like, I'd be looking to take out this low and then maybe, like, even on your way to fill this wick. And then again, right, can't really look left here. Not a lot of support underneath you. So I would say really want to hold on top of this zone. Can't really lose this. Have to look at the extension levels. So, yeah. Got your 2-day green dot printing, daily red dot looking to print. Again, there's just like no real beautiful confluence here, right? You have the 4-hour green dot looking to print, but you don't really have a divergence at the low. I would say like the first sign of a potential push up is if you hold on top of these levels, reclaim the value area low at 20, call it 0.248, 0.249. That would open up the door to potentially get a push into your POC. Zcash, yeah, we could take a look at Zcash. Oh, there we go. Shout out to the premium Discord. Trade short has played out in full and almost to exactly what we looked at on the live streams as well. There you are. Final TP hit. Spotted all the way from this drop to the downside, waiting patiently for the lower high to come in for the eventual lower low. There's your break of structure to the downside. There's the value area high final TP tapped. Shout out to the premium. There you guys go. I know some people actually held that all the way to the low. I personally was not. I took the trade, but I accidentally took a full take profit instead of a partial TP. But absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Short literally given into that golden pocket at 529 with the eventual target of the value area high at 244. There it is. There it is. All identified by market structure and money flow. Saw the daily money flow crossing into the red. What does that make us anticipate? We saw it coming out on the bounce, which means lower high, lower low, meaning a break below this low here. Once we get the full rejection here, money flow starts crossing into the red, making us anticipate, even here, the continuation of lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, eventually targeting that value area low. Pretty beautiful. Now, at this point, well, you have your lower profile here back from 2021. I would just view this as a volume profile, right? We could take that weekly MPOC off the chart. Whoops. Actually, take a lot of this off the chart. It's already tapped. Bada boom. Bada bing. Bada boom. So yeah, break into the range. This would be the key level to get above for some kind of a bounce. But again, it's like, looking at your 2-day money flow, there is Bitcoin making a move. We'll come back to that in a second. 2-day money flow crossover. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, like, not that you can't get above here and get a bounce, but like the overall anticipation would really be lower highs and lower lows here. Money flow indicates the overall trend, just like the daily money flow coming out indicated lower highs, lower lows, and then even the continuation of the local trend. Same thing here, right? That's how we catch these big moves. Money flow crosses red, sure. Maybe you get bounces, but at the end of the day, lower highs and lower lows is going to be more likely. Value area high sits at 238. I call it 240, right? This is your key level to break above for some kind of a bounce, but even if you do get that, right, I do think, number one, if you can't get back above it, next likely place for price to go is going to be the POC. If you do get above it, I would be cautious around your Fibonacci retracements, right? Almost every lower high called here live on the stream. We deleted the other ones as they came in, but almost every one of these lower highs right in on the golden pocket 786. High, low, lower highs likely to come in here, lower low. Where's the next one likely to come in at? Right here. So when we come to the current price action, what will we look at? Well, we can look from this high to the low. This gives you golden pocket 786. You might even have some MPOC confluence in there if I double check it. Let's pull up the weekly. Got a weekly MPOC up there. Bada boom. So that's backing you up on the 786. And then we can check the daily. You got a daily MPOC above that. Not perfectly confluent with the zone, but it is there. And then let me just check the monthly real quick. Got a monthly MPOC right in there as well. All right, so that is definitely going to be your biggest level of resistance there. If you get a big, you would need a pretty big retracement to get back up there. But if you did, right, that would be the zone to look at. Let me just make sure. Put that in there. Right, I'll just hide all this stuff. This would be the biggest level of resistance. Right, again, you would need a pretty big push up there. But weekly MPOC, daily MPOC, monthly MPOC 786. Right, so you could even probably separate this into two different zones because there's no saying that you might not just reject the golden pocket, which I probably should have marked these out as well. No daily MPOC, no weekly MPOC, no monthly MPOC. Okay. That's your current POC, so that's still developing. And then also, right, when we look at this from a volume profile perspective, wouldn't be surprised if that is confluent with your value area low. There you are. Golden pocket. Yeah, so your golden pocket's confluent with your value area low, and then your no real confluence on the POC here, but that would have been nice. Let me pull it to current real quick. Yeah. And let me just check this range as well. So these would be like kind of the two different ranges I would look at personally on the way up. Got range number 1. Boom. Yeah, I would probably look at it from this context before I even looked at that bigger range. So let me just grab this real quick. Grab all this, put it in a folder. There we go, right? So if you do get some kind of big retracement, right, that would be the biggest level to look at. Now, again, you can reject some of these local fibs, right? I'm not going to pull up every single level, right? But if you got a big retracement, this is the biggest level, right? Massive MPOCs, golden pocket from the swing high to the swing low, confluence on the value area low there. Maybe get anchored VWAP confluence as well. Let's take a look. Yeah, that could very likely be confluent with that level as you push up. But again, right, you got to get above this value area high for that even to be the case. Until then, right, next big level of support underneath you is probably going to be about 141.95. And we could try to find some stuff in the meantime, right? Yeah, I mean, look at this. Your next monthly MPOC is sitting right on that point of control. Right? This is what we call confluence. Let's check the weekly. You got a weekly MPOC right here. All right, now again, the POC is going to be kind of your magnetic target, but you could always look at these as intermediary levels and pull up the daily. You might have a bunch of dailies in there. No, you do not. So yeah, those are the levels I'd be looking at down below. You got the weekly MPOC at about 177.12, and then obviously could get bounces there if you come down, right? But if you can't get out of the range, right, you're eventually expecting to get sucked down towards that point of control towards 142. So there you go. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's check Bitcoin as we got the alert. And pull up the local levels here, and there you go, right? 5-minute money flow continues out. Trend continues down. Again, why I was not confident on that scalp long that I took. But really just chopping around here, guys. Still for the most part, waiting for the bigger levels. Which, in my opinion, right, as I covered in the beginning of the stream, breaking above $72,000 wick here, 72,220. Right, we do have liquidity sitting above that high. I have the liquidation heat map right next to me here. So we do have liquidity above there, right? I will be interested in, if we get above here, potentially sweeping into our next bigger level of resistance, which sits between the daily MPOC and the golden pocket, between, I would say, about 73,450 up to about almost $76,000. I will be interested in potential scalp shorts at this level. However, again, you do have to be careful because, with this liquidity and all the shorts that we have in the market right now, it could create a bit of a short squeeze. So I would need to see the confirmations there for the short, and I would also just kind of be viewing it as a scalp, right? scalp it. Got to be careful around the value area high for potential continuation up. But really just kind of sitting on my hands here when we take a look at the higher time frames, right? Big bounce off the value area low, kind of just trading this mini range. This is the only tangible price action that we really have to look at. But until then, really just waiting for the bigger levels, right? Which, again, I would say is sitting between the daily MPOC and the $75,000 golden pocket. Once we get above that, right, I actually think, right, 73.4 up to about 76K. Once you break above that, I think the next zone to look at is between $79,000 and $81,000. These are the two biggest levels of resistance to look at if we get the squeeze to the upside. And then to the downside, right, all those levels remain the same as well. Hopefully we don't wind up ranging around here forever, guys. That would be brutal. I might take a vacation if that is the case. But if we do continue down, right, lose the POC, you got a daily MPOC here, confluent with your golden pocket. But to be quite honest, I just don't, it's support, right? It's confluence. Maybe you get a higher low for a higher high. I'm just not a fan, again, like I said in the beginning of the stream, of longing below the POC. I have no problem maybe taking a long off the point of control. But once you lose the POC and start heading down towards that value area low, it is probably 9 out of 10 times you're much more likely to get a lower high and a lower low into your value area low. So it's not that you couldn't take that as a scalp, or I wouldn't take that as a scalp. But I would always prefer to just be patient for the key levels, right? If price doesn't come down here, again, maybe I'll take that scalp long, but for the most part, right, I would really prefer to come down here and take out those lows. I just don't know if we're going to get it. So if I see a setup here on the scalp level, I will take it if I get the confirmations. And then to the upside, right, just looking to see if we could take out those highs, sweep out some of the liquidity. We just got to figure out when we get up there, is it going to be the SFP for the rejection, or are we just going to get the squeeze to the upside, which we'll have to look at the live price action as it pushes into the zone. But other than that, we're just kind of sitting here, guys. Kind of a boring day for Bitcoin, just ranging around sideways locally. Bitcoin heading to 30K? Potentially. If we lose 47K, I would expect, again, I don't want to say it would be like an immediate drop to 30K, but of course, I heard it here first. The next big supports underneath us, 55 to 47K. Of course, we do have some MPOCs down here as well. Right? Like this zone, I would say between technically, 58 and 47K. For the more bullish scenario to play out, if you're not going to see the traditional 4-year cycle, just give you the, this would be perfectly in line with the 4-year cycle. This is plausible, guys. This is on the table. And of course, right, if we get bottom signals down here, just like I mentioned, I had the 112K target down here last cycle. Once I saw the massive confirmations, I then made the decision that we were probably not going down to 12K. And, at that point, I was already dollar cost averaging into the market anyway. But we don't know, right? We didn't know if we were going to come down and hit 12K or not. We could have, but we didn't, right? And although we can have that target down there, once we start seeing the chart turn around, right, when we have the information, we can say to ourselves, well, hey, I don't think 12K is incoming, right? We're not stuck looking for lower highs and lower lows into 10K, 8K, 5K, right? We understand that money flow is coming up, massive bullish divergences, the trend is likely to continue up. So if we were to see something like that, right, where we see massive bullish confirmations, accumulation down here, well, maybe we don't anticipate 30K. But if we get down here, and again, I don't know what the chart looks like here because we're not down there. But if we did get down there and we do not see any of the bullish confirmations and the chart still looks like trash, right, that is where we will say, hey, I think it's a higher probability that we eventually lose 47K. And then once that happens, right, there's not a lot underneath you, right? You have the weekly MPOC at 37K, and then the value area low at 30K would be the very, very likely fulfill that profile. But again, depends a lot on what happens up here. Let's see. Shout out to Azerty. I don't know if I said that correctly. He says, sometimes I just want to cry, bro. I'm tired with this. When I sell, price goes up. When I then when I buy, yeah, I know the feeling, brother. Trust me, I've been there. And the reason that a lot of the a reason that happens oftentimes is because when people sell, what I would say is take a step back, right? Start to learn just like basic technical analysis. You don't have to get as advanced as we get here. Obviously, you can use some of these basic theories, but a lot of times, right? Like, I just know in my experience, anytime I've sold a bottom, like, why did I sell the bottom, right? At the end of the day, let's just say, big run up, right? Even if I didn't buy the top, let's just say, I bought the low, I made a bunch of money, right? And then I sell the bottom. Anytime I've ever made that decision, right? Why am I selling down here? I've already got a massive drawdown, right? It's not realized if I don't actually sell it. But why do I sell down here? Why do I make that decision, right? Well, it's probably because I'm scared, right? I'm nervous. I have fear. Anytime you make an emotional decision is typically when you're going to be buying the wrong side of the market or selling the wrong side of the market, right? If you are selling because you are scared, it is very likely that you are nearing a bottom. Doesn't mean it's the bottom, but it could mean that you're nearing a bottom, right? So when you sell, it makes a lot of sense that oftentimes when people like panic sell, that's usually where a bottom comes in, right? It's just like the psychology of the market. And it's the same thing with buying, right? If you buy a top, why are you buying this top? Right, because now I kind of have the full view, looking back, like being as bad as I was in the beginning, when I first started to actually understanding how the market moves, I look back and this is so clear to me, right? Now I look at this and, when someone tells me, hey, and this happens in my life, right? Like during 2024, I can't tell you, like there were 5 people I needed to talk off a ledge for buying the top of XRP. But why are you buying here, right? Why are you buying this? Well, like, why are you buying at the top, right? Because you can't buy a top if you're not buying as price goes up, right? So, like, why are you buying this top? It's because of emotion. Oh my God, I'm missing the boat. I don't want to miss the boat. The market doesn't care if you miss the boat, right? The market is brutal. Like, it doesn't care if you miss the boat. It doesn't care if you relate to the party. All it cares about is market structure, liquidity, buying and selling, right? And maybe some tweets. But when you buy up here, my question is, why are you buying? Well, it's bullish, right? But you're too late to the move, right? If you were going to enjoy this move, now when I look at this, if I let's say this move happens, I didn't buy it, right? I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh well, I missed that move, right? I just move on, right? There's tons of opportunities. There's always another opportunity in the market, whether it's to buy another coin or short or just trade, whatever it is. There's always another opportunity. The faucet is always on. There's always another wave coming. So like my question to myself would just be like, why am I buying up here? Like, should I buy? No. Why would I buy? Like, I feel like I have greed, right? It's like I'm being very, I'm being not really greed, but like FOMO, right? That's an emotion, right? Why I would never make a decision off an emotion, or if I did, right? I don't know, maybe I will again. But if I did, I'd be like, yeah, I'm probably gonna get wrecked on this, right? Or it's probably not gonna play out in my favor. So the question is, if price does this, why are you even buying up here? You've already missed the move, right? If you sell down here, why are you selling, right? You've already endured most of the pain, right? So, and it's very difficult, right? Because you're fighting emotion. So I would say most of the time, at least in my experience, anytime I bought a top or sold a bottom, it's always been from emotion. And now I just look at things very binarily, right? I know it's not a word, right? So if I were looking for a short, right, like I shorted up here, enjoyed the ride down, I would never in a million years short down here. Why? Because even if I thought price might continue down, right, it's like I've already missed the majority of the move, right? And that's when you wind up shorting at support or maybe selling at support. So, again, I think it takes experience. I think it takes the hard lessons that you're feeling right now to actually understand that and fix it moving forward. And that's just kind of the name of the game, right? Like, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of people kind of have to, someone could explain this to you 100 times, but until you actually feel those emotions, make those mistakes, and look back and realize it, I think you kind of need to feel that pain to eventually, actually fix it moving forward. So there you go, guys. I'll drop at least 30,000 in the next 6 months. Shout out to Mark B. That's what I like to hear. What I don't like to hear is, like, I can't tell you guys how many times, right, in my personal life, the amount of people that I had to talk off a ledge, multiple people. Bro, and like they were holding other altcoins that eventually wound up following. I'm going to sell all my altcoins and buy XRP. Why? Like, why would you ever buy this? Even if you think it's going higher, why would you buy here? Right? You've already missed this entire move to the upside. I think that's like another emotion people need to understand is like when you miss a move, I think you just have to accept that you missed the move. It's okay, right? You'll catch another short. You'll catch another long. If it's from spot bags, you'll catch another move. It doesn't matter, right? But at this point, right, when people tell me, I'm going to buy, we're pumping, they think they're getting on early, right? But, it's taking off. No. Right? You've missed this entire move to the upside. Even a little bit better, wait for a retracement, buy low, and then at least you're going to get some kind of bounce, right? At least then you're buying low and not buying high. But it's crazy. Like the general like kind of beginner mindset is it's just like buy high, sell low. And I always try to explain it to people, but you can't talk them out of it. It's because they're making an emotional decision. You can't talk someone out of it. They're like, yeah, I don't care, man. I don't even care. I'd rather risk it all and like maybe get rich really fast than just like have to wait and be patient and make a logical decision. That's how emotions work, right? They're not logical. They're emotional. So I've failed at talking people off those cliffs personally with my personal like circle 5 out of 5 times. And then they all wind up paying the price. And I always like, I tried. It's very difficult. But now I just tell people, they're like, should I buy XRP? I'm like, dude, just buy Bitcoin slowly over time. If you don't want a dollar cost average into Bitcoin over the next 10 years and make a decent gain, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I think that is... Fear and greed got to an all-time low yesterday. Yeah, I mean, that's typically not a bad place to start looking for some dollar cost averages, right? But again, right, doesn't mean it can't go lower. But yeah, locally here, obviously, nothing really too crazy happening. But yeah, we went over the bigger levels, guys. I got to hop out of here, but biggest levels to the upside that I'll be watching personally going to be between 73. If we get the push above the liquidity, above 72.2, where's my scalp range? Already got that up. Where's my daily MPOCs? There they are, right? If we come up, we got the liquidity sitting up here. If we push up there, I would look for a squeeze into between 73.4 and 76K. Definitely an opportunity for a rejection, but if we just continue squeezing, get above the golden pocket, I'm looking at the 786 daily MPOC confluence with that key low that we have at 80,500. Break this, looking up here between 79 and 80, call it $81,000. Stop number 1, stop number 2. If we come down first, I will just simply be looking at the volume profile, kind of just chilling, waiting for those bigger key levels. You got the daily MPOC at 64,728, and I'll call it 64,810. Lose that. I prefer to take out the low. I just don't know if we're going to get that. But those are the levels that I'm looking at to the downside. I'll even pull the golden pocket so you can see it. All right, you got the confluence on that golden pocket. There you go. So those are the levels I'm looking at. Other than that, just kind of a boring, choppy price action here. So, yeah, I got to hop out of here. I got some stuff I got to take care of. But shout out to the Mafia. Thank you guys for tuning in. Smash that like button on your way out. And we'll be back here tomorrow during the day, and hopefully we get more volatility than we had today, because this is pretty boring, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, shout out to Lasers Go Pew Pew, said, I know. Oh, I think you're talking to somebody in the chat. Shout out to New Earth Guardian. Shout out to Tommy. Shout out to Manuel. Shout out to DJ H. Shout out to Mike Bennett. And last but not least, Tony D. And to the moon. Hopefully Bitcoin to the moon. But that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to hold a portion of the shorts here, see if they continue to play out. If not, we'll be looking for those longs on the way down. I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong.
Here we go. At the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand.
stream, you ain't seen it like that, yeah. And it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out,